Okay, we should be live. Decided to just go live a little bit early. And before people show up, I'll have a quick cup of tea. It's actually starting to get chilly here. You can tell that winter's kicking in. Thank God, because it's been too bloody hot lately. Can actually have a cup of tea and be comfortable. Oh, that's good. I don't even care if it's getting cold. I'm still having the window open because I love it. Because I'm hard, you know. And for anybody who's here, I'd appreciate you letting me know, as always, if the audio's good. Because this microphone was doing the kind of the red ring of death thing that the Xbox 360 used to do. You know, it was instead of lighting up green, it was lighting up orange, which usually indicates that something's wrong with it. Shout out to Rogers. Good to see you here, man. God bless you. Hello, Nordic. I feel Joe will lose again. I actually disagree with you, mate. And I've put a cheeky little bet on it, which I might talk about that after the fight. Audio is good? Awesome. That's what I like to hear, Kyle. God bless you, bro. Yep. Okay, well, that's good. Awesome. The audio's fine. Banging. Yeah, I'm in a good mood today. It's been a good Saturday. Had a pretty chaotic week, actually. I went to the gym 4 days this week and did some crazy sessions. Did 2 days of sparring. Did a lot of cardio, and I feel really good, actually. So I got up at like flipping 8 o'clock this morning, despite it being a Saturday. Got a great night's sleep, and I've just been perky all day. So yeah, I'm in a really good mood today. Really good mood. Had a nice chicken sandwich for dinner and all. So yeah, needless to say, I'm in a good mood. I got a fridge full of iron brew, which I'm allowed to drink on the weekend. Well, I'm allowed to drink at any time, but you know what I mean. I'm picking Joe to get a 10-round stoppage, and God bless you too, Nordic. Yeah, God bless you, man. And I could see that. I actually think round 10, around about then, is when it's likely to end. And yeah, I've picked Joyce ever since it was, well, even before it was signed. And yeah, like I said, I've placed a cheeky bet on it, and I bet a little bit more than I usually would. So yeah, let's just hope he doesn't let me down this time, you know? Come on, Joe. All you gotta do is outlast this big fat Chinaman, take him into the later rounds, and you got him, eh? And don't walk onto that left hand like a dumbass. Actually box him this time and work the body, and actually use your boxing IQ, and he should win it. Should win it, no problem. But I'll tell you one thing: the bookies are going to make a killing if that doesn't happen. Because even though I've bet on Joyce, I bet you a lot of people haven't, But yeah, I could totally see that 10-round stoppage for Joyce. I could totally see it. Yeah, a lot of people seem to be going with Zhang. I just don't think Zhang's that good, to be honest. I think the first fight was dodgy, if truth be told. I think Joyce fought very uncharacteristically. He's fighting a big man, a southpaw, a guy with a lot of power but poor stamina, and he decides to try and brawl with the guy early on. What he should have been doing was he should have been working the body. He should have been using his jab. He should have been maintaining a high guard and trying to get Zhang to overextend with that left hand. But instead, he was just walking right into it. And I just think it was stupid tactics. Why did he fight that way? I have no idea. Maybe he bought the hype. Maybe he was too light. Look, there's numerous things we can look at and nitpick, but the bottom line is Joyce is the better athlete of the two, regardless of how the reactionary fans see it. He's the better athlete of the two. He's proven it throughout his career, and I think he's going to come through. And I think he's going to win, and I've put money on it. So yeah, I'm going with Joyce personally. I think he's going to win it. I find it stupid how Zhang whooped Joyce the first fight, and the rematch is still in Joyce's hometown. Well, unfortunately, that's just the economics of the situation. At the end of the day, there's a lot of money invested in British boxing, and Joyce is the guy who has the powerful promoter backing him, so that's how the fight's happening in the UK. Plus it was probably in the contract anyway because they had a rematch clause, and I'm going to go ahead and assume that part of the rematch clause was that it would take place in the UK in the rematch, you know? I mean, China isn't really known for big time boxing, is it? So there wouldn't really have been much demand for the fight there, you know? Let's hope that his corner decide to stop any swelling earlier than the fifth round. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Joyce's corner this time. I've got to sort the eye out if it starts to swell up again because the way they handled it the first time was just amateurish. Shout out to Fight Film. Good to see you here, bro. God bless you. Joyce didn't come to win. Simple. Yeah. I mean, look, I could totally see that. We know how boxing, we know how bent boxing is. We really do. And Frank Warren kind of, and I think you were talking about this recently, Precise. Frank Warren pulled the old switcheroo on the boxing fans with the whole um, the situation with the first fight. You know, it could have been a betting scam where they got people to bet on Joyce the first time, but then because of how one-sided the fight ended up being in the eyes of most boxing fans, so many people are going to bet on Zhang in the rematch. So if Joyce comes through and wins this fight, the bookies are going to make a killing. It was a similar situation to the Liam Smith Eubank fight. The first fight, pretty much everybody was picking Eubank. Pretty much everybody was betting on Eubank. Then, suspiciously, Eubank has no chin, no stamina. He's drained to within an inch of his life, and he ends up losing in a big upset. Then everybody's betting on Smith for the rematch, and we saw what happened. So it could be a similar situation. It could be a massive gambling scam as well as other stuff that's going on. I think Zhang wins easily again. See, I disagree, man. I disagree. I don't think Zhilei Zhang is that good. I think it's a situation where people are going to see the second fight, and I think they're going to say that's what should have happened the first time. I think that's what's going to happen here. I really do. I honestly think Joyce is going to win the fight. I think he's going to win it convincingly, and I think people are going to see it as sort of a course correction. They're going to kind of see it the same way that they saw the AJ versus Ruiz rematch. They're going to say, well, if he'd have done this the first time, if he'd have actually trained and took the fight seriously and actually fought, as Fight Film was saying, if he actually fought with a strategy that would allow him to win, then this is what would have happened all along. I honestly think that's what's going to happen, but it seems to be in the minority though, because a lot of people I've noticed seem to be picking Zhang. A lot of people think he's going to win the rematch. I could be wrong. I just don't see it. I just don't see it, man. I honestly think Joyce is the better fighter of the two. And all Joyce has to do, I was talking about this earlier, all he has to do is outlast Zhilei Zhang. As long as Joyce can get through the first half of the fight, where Zhang is dangerous, without getting beaten up or stopped, he should be able to win the fight. He should be able to drown him and stop him late or win on points. I don't know how but I can't imagine he actually was hurt a little last fight. Not much, but enough to not be able to focus and use ring IQ because he was not very convincing while in the corners. I think. Do you mean he was hurt in the first round to where it kind of affected his brain and his cognitive function, and he wasn't really able to think? Because again, that seems to be what a lot of people think as well. Just based on the comments that I've seen. Sorry about that. My microphone got unplugged for a second. But yeah, a lot of people seem to think that basically the speed and the power of Zhang was so shocking to Joyce that he just completely lost the plot after getting hit and didn't really know how to react to it, like he was in shock. I don't necessarily agree with that. I just think it was a terrible performance. He just didn't like Fight Film was saying, he just didn't come to win. It was such a bizarre performance from Joe Joyce. I don't know what he was thinking. I really don't. You're fighting a big guy. Like I was saying earlier, you're fighting a big guy, a southpaw, a guy who can punch, but a guy that based on his track record, has poor stamina. Surely the game plan should be to outlast him, right? The game plan should be to get this guy into the later rounds and take him out. But again, it just wasn't. It just didn't really occur to Joe Joyce that you don't walk into his left hand. Or the second round, yeah. Yeah, I've no doubt that he was hurt. There's no doubt Joe Joyce was hurt in the fight, but it still doesn't explain, just his lack of boxing fundamentals in the fight. His lack of boxing IQ. Joyce UD 116, 112. God bless everyone. Yeah, God bless you too, man. God bless. And yeah, I could see that. I mean, we don't really know what Zhilei Zhang's chin is like, because I know that he did show a good chin when he fought Hrgovic, but he didn't take really many concussive shots off of Joyce in the first fight. And I do think that Joyce is a more attritional puncher than Hrgovic is, even if Hrgovic is a bit more heavy-handed. Joyce is a guy who throws and lands so many punches in fights that he just breaks you down. So I do think there's a chance he can stop Zhilei Zhang. Because again, I know Zhang has got a good chin, but we don't know how good. We've never really seen him take a sustained beating in any fights. When he fought Hrgovic pretty much fought in bursts. And I missed this comment here. Do you buy the narrative that he clearly beat Hrgovic? No, I actually don't. I actually thought that fight could have gone either way, personally. I mean, I wouldn't argue if Zhang got the decision, but I thought Hrgovic did just enough to win. I think the difference in that fight was that Zhang gave the last few rounds away by just being exhausted and barely throwing any punches. And I thought Hrgovic just outlasted him, outworked him, and did just enough to win. So I thought that was a fair decision, personally. But that's just me. Shout out to Bruce Goes. Good to see you, Bruce, every time, man. God bless you. Didn't Zhang get dropped by Joshua in the amateurs? I know they fought, and I know Joshua won. I don't know if he dropped him. I haven't actually watched the fight, but I don't know. Is there footage of that fight somewhere? There might be. But I know that AJ beat him in the amateurs. I don't know if he dropped him or he officially beat him in the amateurs. It may have been controversial, but yeah, I think he got the official win in the amateurs. The main event will probably be around about 10:30, 11 o'clock. That's usually when it takes place in the UK. I'm not really interested in the undercard, so I'm not going to watch it. But the main event, yeah, it's probably going to be around 10:30, 11 o'clock UK time, which I believe is like 4 hours later, or yeah, like 4 hours earlier or something than America. I don't know how it works exactly. But yeah, we usually get the fights before you guys. Zhang is the most dangerous heavyweight in the world for the first 6 rounds. But if you can make it past 6, you have a good chance. Oh yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Look, his entire career has shown that. All right, any fight he's had where he's gone past that point, he's looked terrible. His stamina was awful when he fought Jerry Forrest. It was awful when he fought Philippe Hrgovic. It was a lack of stamina that cost him them fights. He could have won those fights if it wasn't for him being so unfit. And look, when you're a big man, when you're that size and when you're that old, I mean, the guy's, 40 years old now. And he was obviously like late 30s when those fights took place and obviously had a long career in the amateurs. It takes its toll. And Zhilei Zhang is clearly not a dedicated athlete. So, yeah, it was really difficult for him to be a good, consistent 12-round fighter. Are you anticipating the epic return of Conor Benn? Do you know what? I didn't even know that fight was happening until someone mentioned it to me at the gym, and I was like, "Wait, what? Conor Benn's fighting?" And yeah, I looked it up, and he is. He's apparently fighting in Florida, isn't he? But I didn't even realize that. I've no idea who he's fighting. I'm not really interested. Not a big fan of Conor Benn, truth be told. He was slapping Jerry Forrest around like a pimp until he gassed. Yeah, he was dominating that fight. Dropped him multiple times, was giving him a beating. Looked like he was about to stop him. But then he just completely gassed midway and took a beating. Ended up with a draw. And he was lucky to get the draw based on a lot of people's opinions. So, yeah, I mean, if you're drawing with someone like Jerry Forrest and, you're losing like that to Hrgovic, I think we can safely say that Joyce has a great chance of winning this fight. I mean, come on, man. He really does. But yeah, even directly after the first fight, I still favoured Joyce for a rematch. I always felt he would win the rematch, and nothing's changed at any stage, which is why I put money on it. So yeah, we'll see if that was a big mistake or not. Maybe it's me that's getting fleeced rather than casual boxing fans. Who knows? Conor Benn is a spoiled, narcissistic, rich kid. Yeah, he comes across that way. And yeah, I've never been a fan. Never been a fan. I don't think he has anything to offer boxing. He's just another guy who's living off his father's name. That's all it is. That's literally just like Eubank Jr. That's literally all he has to offer is the fact that he's living off his father's name. And I've got no interest. I've got no interest in these spoiled brats. You know, you think that Eye of Joyce is completely healed? Looks off to me. Um, we won't know until we see the fight. Like until we see him take a shot on that eye, we won't know. It's definitely going to damage him. You know, you get hit in the eye by a like 270-pound man like that multiple times. It's going to leave lasting damage. I don't care who you are, but I don't think it's going to leave enough damage to where he can't win the fight. You know, because all he needs to do is avoid the left hand. You know, Zhang's got a decent right hook, but I think his danger punch is his left hand. It seems to be so sharp and so fast, so powerful and so accurate. So I honestly think that that needs to be Joyce's. That needs to be his thought process in this fight. Keep a high guard and move your head a bit and try and avoid the left hand and try and avoid taking more damage on that eye. You know, protect that eye for the first half of the fight. You know, to me, either man can win because Zhang knows he can hurt him. But Joyce no, so if he does stuff different, he can win. But if same song, he might lose in same way. Yeah, I don't think he'll lose in the same way. If truth be told, like I would be very surprised if Zhilei Zhang went in there and just did a number on Joyce like he did in the first fight. I'd be so surprised. I think this fight's going to be a long one, and I think it's going to be very attritional. And I think it's whatever happens, it's going to be more competitive than the first fight. I think that's what's going to happen. You know, Joyce is a little bit more committed this time. He seems like he's trained harder. Seems like he's took it more seriously, and I think he's going to be a lot more effective in this fight with you know with his back foot game. I think he's going to spoil a bit on the outside. He's going to kid around. He's going to try and avoid getting hit, and he's going to try and outlast Zhilei Zhang in the later rounds, kind of like he did to Joseph Parker, I think. Janibek versus Golteri. I've never seen Golteri fight before, so I've no idea. But from what I've heard, I saw Lee Talks Boxing's video on it, and he seems pretty convinced that it's a mismatch and that Janibek will win easily. And I'm inclined to agree because Golteri's beaten nobody. He's done nothing of note. And it seems like it's just a foregone conclusion, you know? His girlfriend seems scared of him in the interview they did together. Are you talking about Conor Ben? Well, I mean, I'd be scared of Conor Ben if I was his girlfriend as well. I mean, look at the guy. You know, he looks like a flipping MX-13 gang member, doesn't he? Chavez Jr. or Chris Eubank Jr. Eubank Jr. would win that easily. Chavez Jr. is complete and utter garbage. I mean, Eubank Jr. is garbage as well, but Chavez Jr. is a lot worse. A lot worse. What do you think if Eubank Jr. fights Golovkin now? Well, Golovkin, how old is Golovkin? Like 41, 40, 41, something like that. He'd probably still beat him. He'd probably still beat Eubank. Yeah, because I can't see Eubank stopping him. And, you know, if Liam Smith can beat Eubank, I'm pretty sure any version of Golovkin can, you know. Probably still stops him late, you know. Do you think the rematch will be one-sided towards Joyce? Do you think it will be close? I think it'll be one-sided in the sense that it will be a conclusive victory for Joyce, but I do think he's going to survive a scare here and there. I think he's going to get hit with a couple of right hooks, a couple of left hands, and he's going to be a little bit shaken, but I think he'll come through it this time, and I think he'll be given the benefit of the doubt by the referee, and the judges will probably favour him slightly as well if it goes 12 rounds, but I don't know, man. I've got a feeling it's going to be a late stoppage win for Joyce, but I could see it going 12 rounds. And if it does, I think Joyce wins on points, you know. Imagine if Zhang had hit Wilder or Joshua with those shots he hit Joyce with. Oh, he's knocking him out. If Deontay Wilder or Anthony Joshua took one of those left hands or one of those right hooks, they're going down. No doubt about that. No doubt about it whatsoever. But, you know, Joyce has a absolute granite chin. The guy's very tough, you know. I think Joyce underestimated Zhang in the first fight. Yeah, it's definitely a possibility and perhaps an understatement, you know. Don't let that bastard breathe. Protect that eye. Mickey Goldmill, Rocky too. Yeah, yeah, exactly. He's got to protect that eye the whole fight because it's a it's a weak spot, or at least it's going to be perceived that way by Zhang. Yeah, Ben looks like a Brazilian prison gang leader. He does. The kind of guy that would chop you up with a machete and put you in your mum's letterbox. That's the kind of guy he looks like. Thoughts on Luis Alberto Lopez last fight? He struggled against Joey Gonzalez. Luis Alberto Lopez is very talented, but he's also very beatable. And to me, he looks like a guy who's mentally weak. In that Josh Warrington fight, he showed a lot of talent, he showed strength, he showed power, but he also showed like he could be upset if you really put the pressure on him. He was complaining to the referee a lot. He was really, really trying to get a break and struggling with the pressure. So I think he got a little bit lucky in that fight personally. I know he knocked out Michael Conlan, but Michael Conlan was always a bit chinny and he's got that stupid reflex based Adam Booth style. So I think Luis Alberto Lopez still has a lot of work to do, and he's still relatively unproven, but talented nonetheless. Mickey from Rocky was actually a terrible coach. He didn't even teach Rocky to put his gloves up. Yeah, he was. He just screamed at him and was like, "You're a wrecking machine. Hit that body. You use your other hand, I'm gonna cut it off." You know, he was like an old school, like 1930s trainer who just used to scream at these guys and insult them and get them to just work, 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 and work so much harder. But from a technical point of view, he was awful. But to be fair, he did get the tactics right against Apollo Creed. He told him to target the body and work inside, and it worked. But yeah, in the process, Rocky ended up with brain damage. So maybe he would have been more suited if he was training with Apollo, or if he was training with the Soviet guy who trained Ivan Drago. That would have been a bit better. He would have learned some basic boxing fundamentals. I watched the Ramirez versus Dogbo fight earlier. I hadn't watched it yet, but I was very impressed with Ramirez. Yeah, I did a review for that fight, and I was very impressed with Ramirez. I think he's very technically good. He kind of reminds me of like imagine a fighter like James DeGale, but if James DeGale had like elite timing and was a little bit more had a little bit better punching technique. He's got that awkward southpaw style where he can sort of bend at the waist and drop his hands and slip under punches, but he turns his punches over so well. He's so accurate, he's so powerful, and he just looks so technically astute to me and like incredibly confident. I really rate Ramirez. I think he's very good. I really do. Dogbo was a solid opponent for that stage of his career, and I think Ramirez handled him pretty easily for the most part. Shout out to Taylor. God bless you, bro. Evening chat, Nordic. Does anyone know around what time the main card is? Well, the main event will be 10:30, 11 o'clock, round about then. That's when they always are. UK time, anyway. I don't know about the whole card. I'm not really paying attention to it. Thoughts on Sonny Edwards? Nah, Sonny Edwards is complete shit. Crap. He's a feather-fisted, glass-chinned hype job in a division full of midgets with eating disorders. So yeah, yeah, I don't rate Sonny Edwards one bit. Mickey would have been suited for Clubber Lang. Yeah, Mickey would have suited Clubber Lang's style because he would have gotten Clubber Lang to work on his stamina, his cardio a bit. He would have had him like doing crazy bag drills and, instead of all the weightlifting and chin ups, he would have probably had him doing road work and, intense pad work drills and stuff. And he probably would have really, really brought out the best in Clubber and got him to be a more efficient pressure fighter. But yeah, he would have suited him more than Rocky. Like Rocky actually would suit the Soviet trainers a bit more, I think. I hadn't watched so much of him because I saw he lost his pro debut, so I thought hype job, but I was wrong. Yeah, he lost his pro debut, but to be fair, he fought a pretty tough journeyman, and the fight was fairly competitive, and I just think he was not well adjusted to the pro style yet. Lee Wood versus Lopez. I'd go with Lee Wood, believe it or not. I think he's too strong for him, too powerful for him. And I think that even though Lopez did a lot better against Michael Conlan. I think Lee Wood's style, keeping his hands up and throwing a stiff jab, I think he would be a lot more effective from long range, and I think he would beat Lopez at this stage. And we'll see how well he does against Warrington. I'm going to that fight, by the way, and yeah, I'm actually expecting him to win that fight, but we'll see. We'll see if I'm right about it. How did you score the first three Pacquiao Marquez fights? Well, I watched all three of them. The first fight was an absolute disgraceful robbery. Pacquiao won that fight clearly. It wasn't even close. I can't remember what I scored it, but it literally wasn't even close. The second fight was extremely close, and I'll tell you exactly how I scored it. I had it to Manny Pacquiao by 1 point. And to me, the 1 point was the knockdown. That made the difference. So that was a very, very close fight. And yeah, really just a very, very close fight for a close win for Pacquiao. The third fight, I had it 8-4 for Pacquiao. It was closer than the first fight, but it wasn't quite as close as the second. But I thought Pacquiao threw more punches, landed more punches. Marquez landed the more eye-catching punches, but I don't think he landed enough of them. And I thought that Pacquiao answered everything that Marquez did. He worked harder, he had the higher work rate, and I just thought Pacquiao threw more, landed more, and won more of the rounds. I had it 8-4 Pacquiao. So yeah, that's how I scored them. And we all know how the fourth fight went. Nordic, what's your thoughts on Emperor Michael? The guy is such a delusional narc. Well, believe it or not, I actually used to watch some of his videos back when I was in the old Facebook boxing forums, and he used to be called. I don't know if you guys remember. He used to call himself Apollo James Jackson, and he used to go around sparring with all sorts of fighters. And if truth be told, I hated him back then because I remember he used to make constant videos calling out people like flipping Steve Bunce and Charlie Zelenoff and like Dean Powell, and calling out old men and idiots on the internet. But then when anybody who could actually fight agreed to fight him, he wouldn't accept it. I remember I called him out years and years ago, and he basically told me that, "Oh, you're nobody. I'd rather fight somebody with some name value." And so yeah, the guy was a bit of an annoying prick, and I wanted to shut him up, but basically I've not really listened to him much in recent years. I don't really give a shit, but I know that he's friends with Triple B, and I really get along with Triple B. I like him. I think he's a great man. I actually met him in Manchester. Really, really nice dude. And yeah, him and Michael are friends now. They get along. But yeah, I don't really think much of Emperor Michael. I didn't like him in the past, but I don't know. From what I've heard from him in like the past few months, like the videos I've seen, he seems a little bit more humble now. He's actually accepting fights. Like he's agreed to fight that flipping, what's his name? That Nicky Smedley. That's going to be interesting. So, yeah, I don't really think much of him, the truth be told. But yeah, I hated him in the past. If Joyce wins, we can listen to more opinions by the wise Sam Jones. I don't even know who that is. Who's Sam Jones? The name rings a bell. Do you enjoy racing cars? No, I don't drive, so I don't race cars. I don't really like watching it either, to be honest. Find it kind of boring. Ramirez was set up to protect Shakur. Do you know what? That's possible because didn't he beat Shakur in the amateurs? Yeah, he was the guy who beat Shakur before he broke down crying like a little bitch. Yeah. So yeah, that'd be an interesting fight. Come to think of it, see if they had a rematch now. Ramirez could win that, but they give it to Shakur. You know it would go the distance, and they just give Shakur the decision, or they'd pay Ramirez off to lose the fight or something like that. I don't know, man. It'd just be a waste of time. You know it would be fixed, wouldn't you? You know that. He would have won the first fight if the judge didn't score a 10-6 round 10. Yeah, that's right. There was controversy involving the scoring. That round should have been a 10-7. Then it would have been a split decision win for Pacquiao. But even that would have been too close. Pacquiao clearly won that fight. It wasn't even close. Remember Warrington versus Shakur? Shakur refused to leave America. Yeah, he did. Shakur ducked that fight. And I'm telling you right now, see if that fight happened then. Josh Warrington would have beaten the piss out of Shakur Stevenson. I said so at the time. Shakur will never take that fight, especially if he had to fight in the UK, because Warrington's the A side. You know, he's a big draw in the UK. He would have battered and absolutely humiliated Shakur Stevenson. Warrington would have definitely won that fight if it had happened then. Support Shakur acts like he's the biggest draw in boxing, yet hardly anyone's even heard of the guy. I mean, the guy couldn't fill a kettle. He couldn't fill a bath. Never mind flipping a stadium. I mean, Josh Warrington's one of the biggest draws in British boxing, and Shakur acting like he was the A side somehow, you know. Can I do a top 10 pound for pound list? I can, but the problem is people would just take the piss out of me for it, because I'd have a bunch of guys who have losses and guys who are actually skilled but fight real fights, you know. I wouldn't have all these, you know, random American guys, you know. I hope Shakur gets frozen out. I can't stand the guy. He punched Conceição in the balls more than the face. Yeah, and he still couldn't stop the guy. You know, still couldn't get him out of there, you know. Because he's got no power. It is what it is, man. Just a slapper and a hype job, you know. Shakur needs to quit whinging about no one fighting him. Guys like Loma and Triple G were ducked for years and didn't say a word, yeah. And look, I don't think anyone should fight Shakur because he's a boring slapper, a cheater, and a hype job. So who cares about him, you know? Who cares? He's a bum. I'm not interested in him. Shout out to Lee Talks Boxing. God bless you, bro. God bless you every time, man. Great channel. You showing the boxing here? No, I won't be showing the fight. I'd get shut down for copyright immediately. So now I won't be showing the boxing. Won't be showing the fight, but I will be talking about it. You're wild for that take, bro. Shakur whips the absolute piss out of Warrington, humiliates him and stops him. Well, Shakur can't slap the absolute piss out of and stop random journeyman in America. So I don't see him doing it to Josh Warrington, you know? Anyone who throws real punches at Shakur, he'll start crying, yeah. Yeah, with that wide open mouth. You know, people will start throwing a couple of straight punches at him and he'll just shit himself. I don't like to lose. What an absolute spastic, honestly. Pacquiao versus Morales 1 was 7-5 either way. But the narrative was he got schooled once Pac was healthy and had his gloves. He showed who was better. Very underrated trilogy for Pac. Oh, yeah. Without a doubt. Like the first fight was competitive, and again there was a lot of controversy in the build-up, like with Pacquiao being like strenuously drug drained and all that, and flipping Morales not letting him wear the gloves he usually wears, his Reyes gloves, if I remember rightly. And yeah, it was still a close fight, and yeah, the rematches weren't even competitive. Pacquiao smashed Morales in the two rematches, stopped him twice easily. So, you know, that kind of outdoes whatever happened in the first fight. You know, it's not like the first fight Morales knocked him out and destroyed him. No, he just old manned him and hustled him out of the victory. But the rematch, Pacquiao separated himself from Morales and then like put the nail in the coffin with the third fight, completely and utterly embarrassed him and made him quit, you know? Something Shakur Stevenson could never do to a world-class fighter unless it was fixed, you know? Do you think Roman Gonzalez was robbed against Estrada? Oh, yeah. Well, he landed the better punches. I mean, it was a close fight, don't get me wrong, but he was the more precise puncher of the two. And if you score on clean, effective punches, then yeah, he won it. Pound for pound list from 7 to 10 get a bit rogue. Start running out of names at that point. Yeah, because again, it's supposed to be about boxing skill. And if you put someone like Lomachenko, who's one of the most skilled boxers in the world ever that we've ever seen, they'll say, but he lost to Teofimo and he lost to Haney and he lost to Salido and all that. I'm like, and? Yeah, he lost a couple of fixed fights and what? But again, that's when I start getting criticised for calling out obvious fixed fights, you know? Again, if a person like Canelo, for example, who's won numerous fixed fights, on resume, yeah, he should be pound for pound number one. But his fights weren't real, they were fixed. So I have to take that into consideration, you know? Shakur draws a crowd in the 90s, but not the boxing version. Oh, yeah, without a doubt. without a doubt. Nordic's pound for pound number one, Sven Ottke. Oh yeah, without a doubt. He's been retired for like 20 years, but he's still the pound for pound number one. Yeah, of course he is. I mean, if Sven Ottke came back today, he would still have better boxing skills and more, more of a boxing IQ than most of the guys holding world titles today. Nor do you like offi- Office Hancho? I don't know who Office Hancho is. Sorry. Shakur's got skills, bro. There's more than one approach to win fights. No, he doesn't have skills. What he has is he has an establishment backing him that has a lot of money and a lot of influence and is able to compromise his opponents and make it so that they don't throw punches at him and don't take advantage of the fact that he has no power and just stand there and do nothing. I don't see any skill from Shakur Stevenson. If I fought Shakur Stevenson, you think I'm just going to stand there and let him stand there with his wide open mouth, throwing little baby slaps and tippy taps at me? No, I'm going to walk straight forward and I'm going to knock him out. And that's what any world class fighter would do. But they don't do it because they've been paid off, because these fights are obviously fixed. Terence Crawford is bigger than Sven Ottke, but Ottke fought at his walking around weight, fighting much bigger men. Yeah, he did. Absolutely. It's crazy. Like Sven Ottke was what, 5'10", and even now, I don't think he walks around that heavy. He's quite a small guy. In shape, I can't imagine he'd be more than 180, 185 pounds in his later years. So the fact that he was fighting at 168 against guys like Charles Brewer, and Byron Mitchell, guys who were basically cruiserweights, and he was schooling these guys. Like Sven Ottke was so underrated, man. That guy could fight somebody who was like 5 inches taller, was way faster, way more athletic, way bigger puncher, and he would have these guys running. He would be cutting off the ring against these guys, backing them up, snapping their head back, getting under their punches and countering. I mean, look at his fight against Glenn Johnson. Glenn Johnson is a guy who was very physically strong, very, very physically big for the weight, a pressure fighter, guy with a great chin, a guy with good power, great stamina. Sven Ottke was backing him up and having him moving around the ring, trying to box and shit. Sven Ottke was so underrated, man. That guy's footwork, his timing, his boxing fundamentals, his defense, his accuracy, his intelligence, like so underrated, man. So underrated. It really was, man. Do you see Nakatani versus Cortez? I didn't see that. No. What happened? I hope Regis can get back close to his best and knock the shit out of Haney. Nah, what Regis Prograis is done. That guy, to me, Regis Prograis is a classic example of something we often see in boxing. He's a classic example of a guy who reached a certain level, had his career-defining fight, fought the absolute best he could possibly fight, put in the performance of his life. It didn't go his way, and he never recovered from it. He never improved. He never felt the need to improve, essentially. After the Josh Taylor fight, which was probably like, that was the pinnacle of Prograis' career. That was his big opportunity, his big fight. He put in a great performance. It was a very close fight. Thought he lost, but it was a very competitive fight. And it didn't go his way. And ever since then, it's like he just doesn't care. He hasn't tried to improve. He hasn't kept himself active. He hasn't really progressed or learned much as a fighter. He's just stuck at that same level. He's never been able to get beyond it. And he's kind of stagnated. And you see that with a lot of fighters. They reach a certain level and then they kind of stagnate when something doesn't go their way, or when they get a career best victory or best performance or something. And I think that's exactly what's happened with Regis Prograis. And I think he's completely and utterly shot at this point because the guy just has gone backwards. So it is what it is. I think Haney will beat him, and I think he'll beat him convincingly if that fight happens, even if it's a real fight. Shout out to Johnny boy. God bless you, Johnny. Yeah, pound that like button, man. Pound that like button. Or don't. It's up to you. But yeah, I'd appreciate it. I swear Shakur is one of the biggest hype jobs I've ever seen. People talk about him as if he could beat Fury and Usyk on the same night. Well, look, every time one of these Black American, former Olympians or whatever comes along, it's always the same. They're the greatest ever. They're pound for pound number one before they've ever done anything, and everything just seems to fall in place for them. We're seeing it with Crawford, aren't we? So I'm just sick and tired of this hype in boxing. An ancient Glenn Johnson bullied Carl Froch around the ring. He did. He literally did, mate. Carl Froch was running from Glenn Johnson, a 42-year-old, weight drained, shot to pieces Glenn Johnson, who had 14 losses going into that fight, beat Carl Froch up and had him running around the ring, had him like trying to play fencing on the outside and just outpoint him and went life and death with him and barely got the win. Could have gone either way. Really should have been a draw. That's how I scored it anyway. Could have gone either way. But Carl Froch is in the Hall of Fame. And, Sven Otke's a complete joke and a bum. Boxing fans are so stupid. And they're so full of crap, man. They really are. They've got no idea what they're looking at half the time. What do you think would have happened if Sven Otke and Marcus Bayer unified in 2004? And do you think it would have been held in a stadium? Wonder why this didn't actually happen as a retirement. Well, sorry guys, there's a helicopter right outside my window if you can hear that. But yeah, why that fight didn't happen was both guys had the same trainer. Uli Wegner was the trainer of both guys. They were good friends, close friends, and they also had the same promoter. So that fight was never going to happen. It was just, again, it's not even boxing politics. It's just, it was inconvenient for them to have fought each other. It would have been awkward. So yeah, it was never going to happen. But if it did happen, I think Sven Otke would have schooled Marcus Bayer. I think Bayer would have given him problems. He was an awkward southpaw. He would have given him some of the same problems that Mads Larsen did. But I think Otke would have figured him out. He would have known him a little bit more than Larsen. I'm assuming they sparred a lot. And I think Otke was the more intelligent fighter. I also think he was the way tougher and more generally talented fighter. And I think he was more durable. And he would have won, in my opinion. I think he would have won it on points. Competitive fight, but I think Otke would have won. He looked good against Zepeda. I hope the Zarella fight was just a blip. He did look good against Zepeda, but he also got hurt badly, and his defense looked leaky in the fight. So, yeah, man, I think Prograis done. I think he's stagnated, and I don't think he got any better after the Josh Taylor fight. That was the fight where he peaked, in my opinion. Hatton versus Jose Ramirez. I would go with Ramirez. Far too strong, far too big, far too durable. Hatton was a good athlete and a good fighter, but he was chinny and he was a little bit small for the weight. I think Jose Ramirez is too big, too powerful. They're actually very similar in terms of their fighting style, but Ramirez has much better defense. His guard is much better. Hatton probably had better stamina, but I think Ramirez's defense and his boxing fundamentals were a lot better. And I think he stops Hatton late in a competitive fight. Yo, Nordic, hope you're well. Yeah, good to see you here, Quags. God bless you, man. Yeah, good to see you, Iron Fist. God bless you, my man. Yep, hope you're well too, man. God bless you. Froch is massively overrated. He got multiple gift decisions and premature stoppages in his career. Absolutely. Absolutely. Darrell clearly beat him, right? Johnson could be argued beat him. Got the gift stoppage against Groves, the gift stoppage against Grunwald. Some people thought Charles Adamu beat him. He had numerous fights where the referees and judges were on his side. The Bute fight was questionable for obvious reasons. I've talked about this in the past. Froch is an absolute hype job. And to be honest, his resume isn't even that good either. It's overrated. Joe Calzaghe's resume pisses all over Froch's resume. Honestly does. Do you think Josh Taylor is washed up? Well, I think that's pretty obvious, don't you? I mean, he just lost to a bum. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was obviously a fixed fight. Look, if you think Josh Taylor versus Teofimo was a real fight, do me a favor. Of course it wasn't. But still, look, the point still stands. Josh Taylor is an anorexic, alcoholic, cokehead, you know. Yeah, he's done. His career's over, man. He's done, as far as I'm concerned. He had a great career, but he should just retire now. I think he's pretty much hit his peak. Same situation as Prograis, as far as I'm concerned. You know, Hatton had underrated foot speed. Yeah, he did. Hatton did have good foot speed, quick feet, and he had very, very good stamina. That was probably the best thing about Ricky Hatton was his stamina. The guy was incredibly fit, especially when you consider he was an alky and a guy who would get fat in between fights. He had crazy stamina. I think his chin was poor though, even in his prime. But the thing is, like, the weight cuts for Hatton really damaged his chin as he got older, you know, as well as the lifestyle catching up with him. And I always think he was overrated in terms of skills. I mean, he got knocked down and outboxed by Eamon McGee. So imagine what a world class fighter like Ramirez would have done to him. I think Hatton gets stopped. I honestly do. Do you think Hatton would have had much success at 140 post the Pacquiao fight? No, he was never the same after that fight. That Pacquiao fight ruined Hatton. It ruined him. It ruined him mentally, and it ruined him physically. He was never going to recover from that, and it's probably for the best that he retired because he would have probably got knocked out multiple times if he kept trying to make a comeback. I mean, you saw what happened to him when he tried to fight Zinchenko at welterweight. You know, he just didn't have it anymore. That he should have retired after that Pacquiao fight, probably. Like, he should have retired permanently, I mean. Honestly, I thought Froch beat Durrell. Well, I don't know how, because he only landed like 39 punches. And he took like nearly 200. So I don't know how you could have him winning that fight personally, you know? The only fighter legitimately Froch knocked out was a gay porn star. Yeah, he literally was. He literally was. Yusuf Mack. Yusuf Mack, a gay porn star. You know what? I gotta give Carl Froch credit. As much as I don't like Carl Froch, he knocked out a sodomite. So, yeah, God bless him for that, man. I'm happy about it. I'm happy about it in retrospect. Shout out to Tony Boswell here. God bless you, man, every time. Much respect, Nordic Warrior in the chat. Stopped in to show support, hit the like button. Fucking listen. Oh, thanks, man. Thanks for stopping by. God bless you. Every time, man. Josh Taylor should have moved up to 147 after the Catterall fight. I mean, you know it, I know it, everybody knows it. It's like everybody but Josh Taylor himself knows it. And that's because, like I said before, he's an alcoholic junkie, you know? He's an alcoholic, anorexic junkie. And those people are not known for their brains, are they? You know? Here's what it is. Who wins right now? AJ or Jared Anderson? AJ, I think. And the reason I say that is because, look, Jared Anderson, he's looked okay so far, but he's so unproven. The guy's fought nobody. So I think I'm going to give AJ the benefit of the doubt and say he's proven enough and he knows enough to win that fight, you know? What time does it start in the USA? I'm assuming it's 4 hours later than, or 4 hours earlier than it starts here, which is usually like 10:30, 11 o'clock. So I don't know, work that one out. I think it's so it must be about 5 o'clock for you guys, I'd imagine, around about then, you know. I noticed that Paulie Malignaggi only accused Pacquiao of being on steroids after he destroyed the guys who whooped his ass. Yeah, I wanted to see that fight so badly. I wanted to see Pacquiao fight Paulie Malignaggi just to see Pacquiao shut his mouth. You know, could you imagine what Pacquiao would have done in that fight? It would have been funny. It would have been so one-sided too. AJ is actually underrated now. He was overrated for years, but it has swung the other way. I thought he did well against Usyk the second time. Yeah, I thought so too. And here's the thing too. Here's the thing. People aren't giving AJ a chance against any of the big guys now. They're not giving him a chance against Wilder or Fury. And that makes him dangerous because now he's a big underdog with nothing to lose, you know? Peace, Nordic. How's it going, Pigeon? Been a while, man. God bless you. You got a bet on both. I got a bet on Joyce. I haven't got a bet on Zhang, but I've got a bet on Joyce. I actually think the comeback against Zinchenko was good for Hatton. I think it bought the closure for his career, and it allowed him to let go for good. Do you know what? That's a good point actually, because after that fight, he didn't have it. He knew he didn't have it anymore, and that's something that before he fought Pacquiao, or sorry, after he fought Pacquiao, and before he fought Zinchenko, that like 3.5 years, whatever it was, he just had that nagging thought in the back of his mind that I've got one more big fight left in me. I can win a world title. I can do it. I can compete. But he realized in that Zinchenko fight, he didn't have it anymore. And that was what he needed to know it's time to retire. So I agree. Absolutely. You're right about that. You're right about that. Howard Stern is a degenerate. Who cares what he thinks? Plus, it was in his hometown. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was in Manchester. It was. Hey, how's it going, Heisenberg? God bless you here. Hello, hello. God bless you. I enjoy watching Khan versus Malignaggi and Portman versus Malignaggi, yeah. And any fight where Malignaggi gets a beating and loses there's got to be a bit of a guilty pleasure in it, hasn't there? So it's like watching Broner lose. Hatton was never that good at 147. Still beat up Floyd till he lost his head, though. Yeah, yeah, because Floyd had a bodyguard referee, Joe Cortez. One is for Zhang, 6 or under. The other is for Joyce, KO any round. I've just got Joyce to win. Just Joyce to win. That's all I've got. AJ still has the best heavyweight resume. He's got one of them. I mean, out of the top guys now, he's got one of them, along with Usyk. Floyd was protected all night by Floyd's personal friend, Joe Cortez. Yeah, of course he was. Joe Cortez was literally warning Hatton for body shots, and Floyd was pretending like he got low blowed, and the referee was warning Hatton for fake low blows in that fight, Pillow fist Paulie. I think Joyce by decision, yeah. I could see that. I think a late stoppage is possible too. I think a decision is also possible. I love the Hatton John Thaxton fight. That was a great fight. Great fight. Hatton almost lost that fight. He almost got stopped because of the cut, but they allowed it to continue. So he was lucky not to be stopped, and he got the win. Do you think Joyce has the ability to make the right adjustments for the rematch? Yes, I do. I certainly do. I think. Look, I just think the way he fought in the first fight was really stupid. He fought a stupid performance, and this fight, I think he's going to come to win, essentially. And I think he's going to do it. I really do. Do you think Jose Pedraza is underrated? He fights everyone, win or lose. He's all right. He's a good back foot boxer. He's quite awkward. He gave Loma. He lost clearly, but he gave him a few problems here or there. So he's got some boxing skills. He's not too bad. I don't think he's world class, but I think he's like a very good domestic level fighter, I picked Joyce to beat Usyk a few years ago. I don't think he would beat Usyk. I think he would put a beating on Usyk in the later rounds, but I think Usyk would win so many more rounds and survive and win on points. I think that's what would happen in that fight. Yeah, I was talking about this earlier. I've never seen Gualtieri fight, so I've no idea how that fight's going to go. But based on what I've heard, everybody seems to think that Janibek is going to win easily, Fighter you were wrong about originally, but right now, who was it I was wrong about? Definitely Inoue. Inoue is a perfect example. See, when I first saw Inoue, I didn't rate him. Didn't rate him that highly at all. I thought he's just a big puncher, a brawler, guy who was pretty tough, but I thought he would get found out at world level. I was actually quite shocked to see how good Naoya Inoue is. He's so much better than I thought he was. I didn't think he was anywhere near as good as he turned out being. He is so good. Like, I was shocked by how good he turned out to be. Fury is the only heavyweight with solid, legit win. Well, he only has one legit win, and that's against Klitschko. And even that was questionable. Really should have been a draw, English fighters get cut badly because of alcohol, yeah. Yeah, there's so many alcoholic fighters in the UK. I mean, it goes without saying, binge drinking is a major cultural problem in Britain. It has been for decades, for generations, and I think that that's caused by the government. I think they've deliberately promoted binge drinking to weaken the population and make them all stupid, you know? Which is why I stick to iron brew and water. Sorry guys, I'm trying to find my iron brew. I don't know where I put it. Sorry about that, guys. There, I've got it. All right, where was I? Got a few comments. I managed to find it. I thought Pedraza versus Ramirez was a draw. No, I thought Ramirez clearly won that. I thought he clearly won it. Pedraza did have his moments, but I thought the body work of Ramirez was the difference. Stupid microphone. Sorry. Yeah, I thought he landed so many more body punches, and I thought that that was the difference in the fight. You know, and yeah, I thought he won it pretty clearly, to be honest. Are you still considering doing the Hatton Junior Witter fantasy fight video? Yeah, yeah. I keep meaning to get round to that. I will be doing it at some point because that's a very, very interesting fight that really should have happened, in my opinion. I think it would have been a very interesting one, but yeah, Ricky Hatton ducked it for whatever reason. What was your take on the Usyk and Dubois fight? I didn't even bother watching it lately. I haven't been too interested in boxing. It was a complete mismatch, and it went exactly the way we thought it would. Usyk absolutely beat the piss out of Dubois. He outboxed him. He outlanded him. He outfought him. He outthought him. Right, just in talking about boxing IQ here, and strategy. Usyk completely just, he figured him out in the first round and he dominated him. And the only thing that gave Daniel Dubois any success was low blows. And even that wasn't enough to get him the win. And he got stopped and he quit, basically, it was a mismatch. That's all there is to say, complete mismatch. Oh, yeah, Inoue is fantastic. I really do rate him. I really do. Inoue wasn't that good. He improved leaps and bounds. Yeah, yeah. Maybe he wasn't as good at the time as he is now. He's definitely improved through experience. I think he got a lot better after the first Donaire fight. I think that was a fight that really tested him and gave him a good chin check and gave him, a good 12-round workout where he was able to really, build up his confidence and develop his stamina. And I think he's so much better now than he was for sure. And he's a lot better than I thought he would be. Fury struggled against a 40-year-old past his prime Klitschko and didn't even want to rematch him. Yeah, he shat himself. He ran from the rematch like a little bitch. Because that's what Fury does, because he's a bitch. You know? That's what it is. He's always been like that. I was wrong about Joe Cordina. On the come up, he was going through the motions. But in his last two fights, he's shown his worth. Great fighter. Yeah, Joe Cordina's underrated. Very, very good technical fighter, I think. I swear Fury's shorts are always falling down in his big fights. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Joyce's top three biggest puncher at heavyweight. He has a more reasonable puncher's chance against anyone. I don't think that he's one of the top three biggest punchers, but he certainly has underrated power. Joyce has that kind of power where it's attritional. He'll hit you with so many punches that are just so heavy and so accurate that eventually he'll just break you down and stop you. He doesn't seem to be like he's not like Anthony Joshua who can put you out with one shot, or like like Zhilei Zhang is. He's not as heavy-handed as those guys, but he's a lot more consistent. He lands so many punches that he just breaks you down and stops you, you know? Just pouring myself a drink. Oh, that was good. The first gulp's always good. Next week, Gassiev Wallin should be solid. What do you think about that one? Do you know the way I see that fight? I think Wallin, with his back foot boxing, with his southpaw style, I think he will win some of the early rounds. But I think as the fight goes on, the superior conditioning of Gassiev, his body attack, his strength, his power will be the difference. And I think he will break Wallin down. I don't think he'll stop Wallin, but I think he'll beat him clearly on points. I think he'll land the harder shots, the more clean shots, the more effective shots. And I think as the fight goes on, his power will start to tell. He'll start to back Wallin up. He'll start to land to the body consistently. And I think it could be kind of similar to Ramirez Pedraza, what I was talking about earlier, where the body attack and the power punching of Gassiev is the difference. I think he wins on points. But yeah, I think Gassiev will win. It's a good fight, though. It's an interesting fight. But I think Gassiev will win. But Inoue always had speed, power, athleticism. Oh, yeah, without a doubt. Like, I never doubted his power. But what I did doubt was his skill and his chin, I thought that would get tested. Gassiev will stop Wallin late with body shots. Oh, yeah, I could see that. I could totally see it. But I think that Wallin is tough enough to go the distance if he wants. So I'm going to go with Gassiev on points, personally. But we'll see. Pedraza was in the fight, but Ramirez was just doing a little bit more round by round for me, yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I thought his body attack won him the fight. I've always thought Ramirez was overrated. I thought he lost to Postal and Zepeda and got destroyed by Taylor. Yeah, he lost to Taylor without a doubt. The Zepeda fight, I think I just gave him that fight. It could have gone either way. Very, very close. And I thought he lost to Postal. So yeah, I thought he was very lucky to get the decision against Postal. Taylor fight, he clearly lost the Taylor fight. And the Zepeda fight, I thought he just deserved that win, but it could have gone either way. Very, very close. So yeah, maybe he's a bit overrated, but I think he's tough and I think he's powerful, That's why I didn't watch it. I thought it would be a mismatch. It sounds like I was right. Yeah. The only channels saying the Usyk low blow was legit are the black supremacist chat. Yeah. Who gives a shit what those people say? We know exactly what their agenda is. We know that they're full of shit. We know that they're shills. We know that they have an agenda. Who cares? I mean, I don't even pay attention to those scumbags, No, Ramirez didn't win 5 rounds against Taylor. Look, I watched that fight again. He won 2 rounds at most. Mate, that fight wasn't even competitive. It wasn't. I don't know what the fuck people were watching. It wasn't even competitive. I don't know about Joyce coming in at 260 or 280. Seems a bit insane. He doesn't move his head very much now, and he's going to be even slower. I think Zhang TKOs him in 8. We'll see, man. We'll see. I personally think we're going to get a better Joyce. I think he's going to be more active with his body work. I think he's going to move his head even more. And I think he's going to put on a better performance from a technical point of view. And I think he's going to win it. I gave Ramirez 2 rounds, 10 rounds to 2 to Taylor with 2 knockdowns. I had it. Yeah, you need a good pair of glasses if you thought that wasn't low. I was so disappointed the Vlad Fury rematch didn't happen. I think Fury would have taken a sabbatical from boxing if he retained the belts. Yeah, Klitschko probably would have won the rematch because Fury clearly showed that he didn't have the confidence to win going into the rematch. He obviously thought that he got Klitschko on a bad night and he wasn't going to win the rematch. That's why he ducked it. He never took the rematch, When I hear the name Codina, I always remember of the Ford Cortina. What is that, a car or something? Shout out to Steven Schneider, by the way. Good to see you here, bro. every time. Well, Zhang, I don't know if he was outboxing Joyce. He was just kind of landing the left hand because Joyce was giving it to him, if you know what I mean. Joyce just did a horrible job technically, you know. Technically, he was awful in the first fight. I'm interested to see what Gassiev can do at heavyweight. Hopefully, his injuries are behind him. Yeah, hopefully. I don't know, man. He's been so inactive, and you know those injuries, they're going to plague him for the rest of his career. So even if he's able to beat Wallin, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to beat any of the big names. So we'll see what happens. You know, we'll see. You know, being Russian won't help him either. I don't think. But I don't know. We'll see. Maybe he'll get the Usyk rematch. It'll be an easy one to make. You know. Well, the ref wasn't looking at Usyk, and the reason he didn't take a point off of Daniel is because he was taking into consideration that it might have been accidental. You know, referees do that sometimes. They don't always take points away for fouls. If they think it might have been accidental, they give them the benefit of the doubt. And yeah, the punch was below the navel, and the entire punch landed on the shorts. So yeah, it was a low blow, an obvious low blow. You know. Shout out to G Man. God bless you, bro. No, belly button shots are not legal. They're illegal. And the fight and the punch wasn't on the belly button. It was below the belly button. It was part of the punch was on the belt and part of it was below the belt. The entire punch was on the shorts. So it's a low blow. This is an indisputable fact. It was a low blow. People also act like Usyk wouldn't have gotten up, even if the ref didn't call it a low blow and started thinking, oh, of course he would have. Usyk would have gotten up. It would have pissed him off. And he'd have probably stopped Dubois even sooner because he would have been pissed off. And he'd have thrown everything at him to get him out of there, you know? Why is this rematch even a thing? Joyce got slapped up the whole fight and looked like he'd even never even sparred nor fought a southpaw even. Well, you know, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in the rematch. I mean, I'm sure your thoughts on it will be different if he goes in there and does a number on Zhang in the rematch, you know? I have my doubts about Fury and Usyk fight ever happening. I think it will happen because who else are they going to fight? Like who else is both guys going to fight that'll add to their legacy and be a significant payday? You know? Yeah, fighting the MMA guys is going to make Fury money, but it's not going to do anything for his legacy. Usyk's that only legacy fight that he has right now. You know, Joyce will be two with an extra £30. I don't think the extra £30 will necessarily bother him. I mean, look, gaining weight isn't always a bad thing, especially in boxing where, you know, you need to be obviously you don't want to gain too much weight to where it's going to slow you down and hinder you. But if you're a big guy like Joyce is, a little bit extra body fat isn't going to bother you. It's going to give you some more, excess weight, behind your punches. It's probably going to give you more of an energy reserve as long as you put on like healthy amount of fat and you're not consuming like a lot of crap like sugar. I think he'll be fine. I don't think the extra £30 will bother him. It's probably his walking around weight, to be honest. Fury versus Hay in 2013. Hay has a very good puncher's chance in the first half of the fight, but if the fight goes late, Fury either stops him or beats him on points. That's how I see it. Unpopular opinion, but I think the AJ versus Klitschko stoppage was premature. No, I agree, it was premature. Klitschko was on the ropes riding the punches and making them miss. And AJ was gassed. I don't think it should have been stopped. I think it was a premature stoppage, and Klitschko might have won if he could have made it the distance, because he should have been ahead on points, Yeah, who knows? I think it might go past that. Yep, it was a pretty good car from the 70s, all right. I'd never heard of it. I don't think I had anyway. I don't know much about cars, though, to be fair. I don't drive. Not yet, anyway. I am thinking of taking lessons at some point. Do you think both the Klitschkos retired too prematurely? I think Vlad definitely had a few more fights left in him. Personally, no. I think Vitaly Klitschko looked very, very old when he fought Derek Chisora. And in the Manuel Char fight, he got the win, but he didn't look spectacular. So I think he retired at the right time. And as for Vlad, I mean, he lost 2 fights in a row against guys who he would have absolutely smashed in his prime. So I think he retired at the right time, personally. I mean, yeah, he could have won some fights, but they wouldn't have been like big legacy fights, would they? I mean, if he'd have gone and knocked out Deontay Wilder, people would have just called Deontay Wilder a bum, like they did with most of the guys that Vlad knocked out, you know? What do you reckon Josh Taylor should do next? A few tune-up fights, get used to welterweight, then a step-up fight. I think Josh Taylor's done, mate. I honestly do. Look, again, I don't think it was a real fight, obviously, but obviously it wasn't a real fight. But if he's losing to a guy like Teofimo Lopez, just give it up, man. Just give it up. He's got nothing left, as far as I'm concerned. He was a great fighter a few years ago, but I think he peaked at the Ramirez fight, and I think he just went backwards. So I personally think he should retire. Personally, he'll probably get knocked out at welterweight. I mean, he could have won a welterweight title and done quite well in the division if he'd have moved up like a couple of years ago. But now, I don't think he has the desire or the motivation to do it. I honestly don't. So it is what it is. Hopefully, I'm wrong, but it is what it is. A rematch definitely should have taken place between Vlad and AJ, yeah. And I do think Vlad at that point in time, just based on the state they were both in, going into the rematch, I think Vlad would have knocked him out. I think he would have won it. Also, Dillian White should have been disqualified. Yeah, because against Parker, because he headbutted him. Like, that knockdown was actually set up by a headbutt. But Dillian White was a very, very dirty fighter. And he got away with it in most of his fights, you know? That's what happens when you're the A side, you know? That was a nasty low blow, too. Really put some torque into that shot. Dirty. Yeah, it was dirty. That was, and I think it was definitely a deliberate low blow from Dubois. And he was talking about cheating before the fight. He was saying he'll cheat to win, you know. So yeah, as far as I'm concerned, it was definitely a deliberate low blow. I don't have any doubt about that whatsoever. Does Fury really care about legacy? I don't know. I think he would like to get the undisputed fight because it's good for his ego. He can say he was undisputed heavyweight champion, the first to ever do it in the 4-belt era. It just sounds good, doesn't it? And it's a good look. And if he gets the win over Usyk, who's a boxing legend at this point, again, that looks great on the resume, Fury will fight AJ or Wilder again next year. I see the Usyk fight happening in 2025. I think the Usyk fight will happen next year. That's what I think will happen. Hey, why'd UD after Fury goes down a few times? 2013 Fury couldn't see an overhand right coming. Yeah. Do you know what? I could see that. I could see that happening actually. Because it could be like the Cunningham fight where he gets caught with the overhand right. He kind of learned how to avoid it after that, Would you rather take one low blow from Dubois or several from Ward? Probably several from Ward, because if Daniel Dubois hit me in the balls, I don't think I'd ever have children. Daniel Dubois is a much bigger man and a much bigger puncher than Ward. If Ward hit me in the balls, I'd probably laugh in his face. That's how I see it. That's what it is. What's your opinion on these money grift fights? Do you think it's just fulfilling fans wanting to see or just greed that is beyond a fighter with class? Probably a little bit of both, if truth be told. Look, boxing fans, like especially casual boxing fans, are stupid. They're some of the dumbest people ever. The kind of people that would literally pay to see Floyd Mayweather fight McGregor in an exhibition, the kind of people that would pay to see Jake Paul fight anybody, So yeah, maybe there's a market for these freak show fights, and if people pay to see them, I guess that's what the market wants. Here's what it is. By the way, heavyweight blockbuster coming up: Jarrell Miller versus Manuel Charr for the WBA regular title. Do you know what? I'm more interested in that than I am in anybody who Fury fights. Like Jarrell Miller versus Manuel Charr. It's a bum fight. but it'll you know that that fight's going to be good. You know it's going to be entertaining and it's going to be interesting whatever happens, you know. Taylor versus Avanesian to see if Josh has anything left. Avanesian will stop him. Like see based on Josh Taylor's recent form, Avanesian will stop him. I've no doubt about it. Like Josh Taylor at his prime wins that fight easily on points, but yeah, I'd be interested to see it. I would. Usyk and the Klitschko's are being used for propaganda and to continue the war so more Europeans can kill each other. Yeah. Yeah, of course they are. You know, the more white Europeans kill each other in that war, the better it is for the, for the elite, I guess. So you got to support Ukraine, throw all your money at them. Josh Taylor will probably have a rematch with. Yeah, I could see that happening. I could see that happening. That could be just his cash out fight, just to settle the fake score, Vlad has wins over Chris Bird two times, Ray Mercer, Samuel Peter 2 times, Sultan Abragimov, Ruslan Chigayev, Eddie Chambers, David Hay, Povetkin, and Pulev. That's a very good resume. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. That's a very good resume. Yeah, that is a very good resume, actually. It is. Those are all, especially guys like Povetkin and Ibragimov and Chigayev, because those were all like elite amateurs, like Olympic level fighters who actually became very, very good contenders. Obviously guys like Chris Bird and Ray Mercer, they were some of the top guys in America. And Sam Peter was a monster. Like that guy was a massive puncher. So yeah, that's a pretty good resume there. And of course, David Hay was, I think, the number 3 heavyweight when Vlad beat him. So yeah, that's a very respectable resume. Very good resume. And Pulev was pretty good at the time too. So was Povetkin, Like Pulev was in his prime, I think, when he fought Klitschko. Yeah, Usyk would completely school Miller. Could you imagine it? I don't think this community would take it well if Fury were to beat Usyk. I think he will beat Usyk. I've said that from day one. I think he will beat him. Miller will beat the crap out of Char, probably. I think he'll take some shots on the way in, but I think he'll beat him. I think Miller will stop Char in the later rounds, most likely. Char still fighting. We are living in the golden age of heavyweight boxing. Yeah, Manuel Char is a world champion in the golden age of heavyweight boxing. Yeah, Marius Watt, Ray Austin, Tony Thompson, Derek Jefferson. These are all top contenders, world rank contenders at the time that Klitschko beat them, They were all considered dangerous opponents until he beat them. I'm truly interested in Char Miller, to be honest. Yeah, it's a great fight. It'll be a great fight to watch, Will be an interesting one, whatever happens, I think. The ruling class will do everything in their power to try and destroy the European people. To be honest, they already have. Let's be honest. I'll probably take Catterall to beat him at this point. If Catterall wouldn't have run and actually boxed the last 4 rounds, he would have won the first fight. Yeah, Catterall probably beat him. If the fight's at 140, he'll probably win. I don't know if he'd win if it was at welterweight. I don't know. Not sure about it. Do you watch many political channels or creators? Not anymore. No. Because I just don't see the point. I see it as a complete waste of energy. I'd rather watch something that makes me happy. Like a gaming video or something. I'm sick and tired of politics. Sick of talking about it, sick of hearing about it. I just don't want to know these days. I could care less. I could care less about it, Jarrell Miller is a good addition to the heavyweight division. Well, yeah, he's definitely entertaining. He's got an entertaining style. He's a guy who's aggressive, who's very, very assertive. He's a guy who goes in there, puts the pressure on you. Him versus any of the big names like Wilder, Joshua, he'd give them a good fight based on his chin and his stamina, and his willingness to apply pressure. and throw a lot of punches. You know, he's not the biggest puncher, but he throws so many punches that he can overwhelm you, kind of like Joyce can, you know. Zelensky versus Putin, who's the bigger puppet for the global elites who we can't call by name? Well, again, they're just two sides of the same coin, aren't they? They both work for the same people, you know. Is what it is. Screw them both. I could care less. They're both scumbags, you know. Trying to fight between each other for their own murderous dictatorship, you know. Who's better than the other? I don't know. Wilder probably has the weakest resume of any heavyweight champion in history. His only decent win is Sonny Liston's childhood friend, Luis Ortiz. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I mean that's not even that big a win either, is it? But that's probably his best win. Manwachar will be a future opponent for Hughie Fury's legendary WBU run. Yeah, Manwachar could be his first defense. You know, Hughie versus Christopher Lovejoy for the WBU belt coming next. Could you imagine that? Could you imagine if they brought back the WBU belt just for Hughie Fury, just so he could call himself a world champion? You know that would be quite funny. I'd love to see Miller versus AJ just for the build up. Yeah. I mean, we saw a build up for the first fight, you know. Probably be even better. Like an even better build up for the second fight. I'm really sorry, guys. Yeah, this stupid microphone is doing my head in now. It's starting to piss me off, you know. The problem with politics is that 99% are just controlled opposition, fake divide and conquer, and faux heroes. Yeah. Yeah, look, if somebody's on TV or if they have a massive following on social media, they're probably a shill. That's just the way I see it right now. I'm completely black-pilled in regards to politics. Anybody who's genuine, who's in regards to politics, gets a rape allegation and thrown in prison. That's what happens, you know. Is what it is. Screw politics. I don't even want to talk about it. Christopher Lovejoy is a dangerous opponent. Yeah, for Hughie Fury, maybe. I could beat Christopher Lovejoy. I'm not even kidding. Shannon Briggs would be Hughie's first major pay-per-view. Yeah. Imagine that. That would probably still go the distance too. Miller versus Wilder, Battle of the American Scumbags. Yeah. Yeah, that would be someone's getting knocked out. Either way, we get to see one scumbag get knocked out, you know, is what it is. Who do you want to see Fury fight next, Usyk or Joshua? Well, Usyk's the better fight, but Joshua would be a bigger fight just based on, Joshua being a bigger name and having a bigger following, you know. And I don't know, the Joshua fight, it's one of them fights it's been talked about for so many years that it'll be just disappointing if it doesn't happen. So I would say Joshua. I'd rather see Joshua fight. You're probably right. It's hard not to be pessimistic about our situation. If you look at the change in demographics, the lack of morals, and how much power and influence the anti-white Marxists have. Well, exactly. There's nothing you can do to stop it. Right, which is why I don't see a problem with being blackpilled on the issue. What on earth am I supposed to do about any of this? Am I going to take my 10,000 subscribers and start a political movement, and then 2 weeks later end up in prison as a white supremacist alt-right Nazi? Of course not. That's all that would happen. He's an alt-right Nazi. Throw him in prison, and then that's my political movement over. Anybody affiliated with me gets thrown in prison. It is what it is. What's the point, you know? Here is a wee lad. Yeah, he's just a baby. Still a young wee lad. He's just a baby. He's only 24. He's only 27. He's only 30. I'm 30 next year, come to think of it. Hughie had some good attributes. He has good foot speed and a good chin. Yeah, he does. He's difficult to stop. He's a very talented spoiler, very fast and very tough. Shout out to John McSmith. God bless you, brother. God bless you. We can all say who we want Fury to fight, but he'll probably end up fighting Larry Olapamio anyway. Yeah, or maybe Christopher Lovejoy. Or maybe he'll fight Boogie 2998. That's like the perfect level of opponent that he would fight if he could get away with it, you know? I don't think we will ever see an elite level short pressure fighter like Povetkin ever again. Yeah, Povetkin is one of the best technical fighters I've ever seen. Massively underrated. Great fighter. Hugh Fury hasn't fought in almost 2 years. Wouldn't be surprised if he retires. I didn't realize it had been that long since he last fought. Was it Marius Wack who he last fought? I think it was. It's interesting that he's not fought in a while then. They have gotten to many people in the West to embrace diversity. They essentially got us to dig our own graves. Well, yeah, it's self-loathing. Most people in the West hate themselves. They hate their culture. They hate their history. They hate their family. They hate their genetics. They just want to die. They hate themselves and they want to die. It's self-loathing behavior. Is what it is, man. Self-hatred, right? That's what that's just Western society now. It's self-hatred, you know. Mick Hennessy's interview after Huey lost to Parker was the most I've ever laughed at something boxing related, yeah. With his shades of Ali. I heard Fury offered Boogie a 70-30 with no rematch clause, yeah. Fury would legit fight Boogie if he had the opportunity to do it. That is literally, I'm not even exaggerating, that is literally a fight he would take if he could, you know, if he could legally do it. I bet you can't wait to see Tommy Fury and KFC fight. Now that is going to be a display of elite boxing skill, yeah. Oh man, like just, these absolute bums that get these opportunities to fight just because they have a big following. Hopefully this channel blows up and I get 100,000 subscribers. Then I'm calling out everybody and I'm just going to absolutely murk these bums. I swear. Going to batter them all if I get a chance, you know. Tyson Fury will probably fight the winner of Miller Chaw. Do you know, that literally wouldn't surprise me. They were talking about Fury fighting Chaw just last year, so that wouldn't surprise me one bit. Matthias versus Ergashev. Probably Matthias by a competitive late stoppage, probably. Or a decision, I think. I think Matthias wins it either way. 100% no, yeah. Teofimo and Haney will never fight Matthias. Not unless they can pay him to take a dive. Teofimo's never had a real fight in his entire career, aside from the one fight he had away from top rank, and that was against George Kambosos, that bum from Australia who beat him. And that was why Teo's alcoholic dad, after the fight, said that, what was it he said? He said we shouldn't have left top rank. We should have stayed with top rank. Why? Because when they were with top rank, they were getting fixed fights. The opponents weren't coming to win. So he goes back with top rank, and then all of a sudden people start not coming to win again. You know, a guy like Sandor Martin, who would absolutely beat the piss out of Teofimo in a real fight, he drops him by accident, literally taps him on the chin and drops him and then does nothing for the rest of the fight for some reason. Like, Lomachenko does nothing for the first half of the fight, then beats the shit out of him in the second fight and basically does nothing prior to it. And then Josh Taylor sets about him in the first round, literally beats the piss out of him in the first round, has him on the verge of being stopped, and then just stops and does nothing for the rest of the fight. Boxing fans are so retarded that they can't see what's going on with Teofimo. And it winds me up, man. How can people be so ignorant? It's so obvious that his fights are fixed. I can't even get my head around how that goes over people's heads so much, you know? Like, that guy's one of the biggest frauds in boxing history. And Devin Haney's just a bum who gets gift decisions, you know. KSI is so bad, he makes Jake Paul look good. Yeah, he does. Didn't Jake Paul beat him, or was it the other way around? I can't remember. No, in fact, it was Logan Paul he fought, wasn't it? If I remember rightly. Fury wouldn't want to get a beating from Gigachaw. Yeah, Team Gigachaw. Team Gigachaw. Do you rate Catterall? No, not really. He's just a spoiler and a runner. Charlie Zelenoff versus Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate easily. But because what would happen there is Tate would land one punch or one kick or something, and Zelenoff would just quit. Like, you punch Zelenoff, he quits immediately, and he'll run away and call timeout, but then claim he won later, you know? Kambosos is terrible. Maxie Hughes schooled him. Exactly, he's a bum. But again, even hardcore boxing fans are so retarded that they actually think Teofimo has real fights. They actually think that Teofimo versus Loma was a real fight. He can't beat George Kambosos, but he can beat Loma. They actually think that Josh Taylor just was scared of the counterpunching. Just watch the first round. Taylor literally beats the piss out of Lopez. Proves he can land anything. He can land whatever he wants. Right? Has the guy completely and utterly shitting himself on the verge of being stopped. That should have been a second round stoppage. That fight was that much of a mismatch. But then he just stops and he does nothing for the rest of the fight. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder why he did nothing for the rest of the fight. I wonder why when Sandor Martin tapped that chinless fucking bum on the chin and put him down, why he did nothing for the rest of the fight. I wonder why Lomachenko did nothing for the first half of the fight. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder. I've got a sneaking suspicion that they might have just been scared of the counterpunching, you know? But yeah, boxing fans are so stupid and ignorant. They really are. Do you watch American football? Rigging is becoming so obvious. NFL is direct business partners with Seizure. Gambling is destroying all sport. No, but I have heard that. I have heard that American football is so rigged. To be honest, I think soccer is rigged too. Like, football over here, I've suspected for years is rigged, you know, because it's been used for political reasons all the time, as well as gambling, you know. Kambosos' team picking Hughes as an opponent. Some of the worst matchmaking I've seen. Well, to be fair, Hughes was the champion. You know, he had the IBO title, which I think they wanted. So, yeah, they went for that. Who is more protected, Canelo or Tio? I would say Tio. Because, again, at least Canelo has a good chin. We can say that about Canelo. They can kind of make his fights look real, you know, under the assumption that he's just so tough. But Teofimo's glass-chinned. That guy literally can't take a punch. Like, literally, Sandor Martin tapped him on the chin and he went down. And he had no idea what to do. And he swings wild. And I think he's autistic or something. Like, I don't know. Teofimo Lopez, to me, looks like a guy who he has some kind of mental issue where he just can't control himself. Like he just loses the plot easily, you know? And no half decent area level fighter should be losing to him, you know? Haney looks like a black movie character version of the Joker. Yeah, could you imagine that? Logan Paul got robbed against Floyd. Yeah, he beat the piss out of Floyd. He did. Rolly Romero ducking O'Hara Davis fight Ryan Garcia. Suppose that's a bigger fight, isn't it? He loses both fights easily, you know? Rolly Romero is an absolute bum, you know? Inoue probably beats Venado Lopez. Probably on points, I think. It's a good fight, but I think he wins it. Charlie Z has as much heart as Dubois does, yeah. That's actually true. Just about as much heart as Dubois does, you know? Yeah, Charlie Z has more balls than Dubois, yeah. Dubois is such a coward. That guy quit against a guy half his size who hit him with a jab. I mean, come on, man. No, we don't have any links to the fight. American football is too confusing to follow. I've never actually watched a full American football game. Yeah, sausage link. I could do with one of them right now, you know. They almost robbed Floyd in Vegas against. No, they didn't. That was just my opinion. What happened there was it was predetermined scorecards. I think they did that to because they were always going to give it to Floyd. I just think they did that to maintain Canelo's marketability. Because if they wanted to rob Floyd, they could have. They could have easily give it to Canelo. But I just think it was a pre-written scorecard. That's just how I see it, you know. It's no wonder that Tio is the way he is getting raised by his scumbag dad. Exactly. But that's the thing, though. Like, Tiafimo's one of these kids who was taken out the amateurs and was groomed by the boxing establishment and just given fake fights. Literally a fake boxing career. That's all it is. Every single fight involving that guy has been a fix, aside from the Cambosos fight, where you saw what he was really made of, and that's nothing. He's shit. He's a bum. Inoue within 6. Bernardo Lopez is an utter bum. Not even a top 10 featherweight. Lost 2 of his 3 world title fights. I wouldn't say he's a bum, but I do think that Inoue beats him. I think it might go to points, though. Beterbiev versus Kovalev. Does Bivol beat either? Prime for prime, I would take Kovalev over Beterbiev by late stoppage, but I would take both of them over Bivol. I'd take Bivol over both of them now, but I would take either of them over him prime for prime. You know, they say Dubois was robbed, even though it was a low blow, but like to forget that Usyk was winning and dominating every round. Yeah, of course he wasn't robbed. He quit. He quit like an absolute coward. Usyk schooled him and made him quit. I think Kovalev would have handled Bivol pretty easily, but Beterbiev would have been really tough. Yeah, prime for prime, I think Beterbiev would have been a tougher fight than Bivol. But I still think that Kovalev would have won it, I think. Yeah, how's it going, Tom? God bless you, bro. Yeah, I think prime Kovalev would have won. Have you heard about Triple G fighting again? Or does he go out on a rigged Canelo play fight? He'll probably fight one more time and then retire. Just get a win against a bum and then retire. I don't really care. Triple G's a scammer. I lost all respect for Triple G in that third Canelo fight. That was an absolute disgrace. One of the most obvious fixed fights ever. Bivol is good, but these two are better. I agree. At their prime, they're better. I think he beats them now, though. But back in the day, when they were at their best, I think they would have beaten him. At their prime, I think they would have outboxed him. Hey, Nordic. Yeah, how's it going, Mateus? God bless you, bro. Hey, Nordic. I actually felt the Mayweather-Canelo fight was pretty close. Perhaps you can do a round by round to see if I'm onto something. I could do that, but to be honest, I can't be bothered watching that fight. I just can't. Mayweather fights, I can't watch them. They're so boring. They're so boring. Bivol is getting a bit overrated for beating up 2 Mexican hype jobs, yeah. Speaking of fixed fights, I mean, that Ramirez fight, in retrospect, looks a little bit suspect to me. It really does. He didn't even try. He didn't come to win that night. I actually picked him to beat Bivol. But yeah, Ramirez, he just did nothing. I mean, I thought he won like a couple of the early rounds, but as soon as he took a few shots, he went into his shell and he did nothing. Despite being the bigger man, the stronger man, just got beaten up by a guy who, you know, he had the ability to beat, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't rate Bivol as much as some people do, you know. Very good fighter, but is he a great fighter? He could be, but I don't think he's yet proven it, you know. I've heard Golovkin might be fighting John Ryder. Yeah, I could see that. I could see him fighting John Ryder as a retirement fight. Wouldn't mind it. But I wouldn't watch it probably, you know. The first Maidana fight was entertaining, yeah. Yeah, Maidana won that fight. He won that fight clearly. Then he took a dive in the rematch. He didn't even come to win. So clearly they paid him off for the rematch, you know. I think Ramirez was just dead at the weight. I don't know about that. I mean, he moved up from super middleweight, so I don't know if he was. I just think he didn't come to win. It was probably a fixed fight, I think. I always thought that was a fixed fight too. Ramirez will beat Joe Smith. Yeah, I'm fairly confident he'll beat Joe Smith. I'm pretty sure of it. I think he will beat him, probably on points. I think he's just a better fighter, far more skilled, far more athletic, and far more skilled. The whole Everlast glove fiasco was entertaining as well. Yeah, Maidana wasn't allowed to wear his Everlast gloves. So, yeah, if he was allowed to wear them, he probably would have stopped Floyd, let's be honest, because he beat the piss out of him with the pillow gloves that they gave him, you know? So, yeah, here's what it is. But, yeah, screw Mayweather, man. The guy's just a coward, a bum, and a guy who had fake fights, you know? Man, where's that glass? There it is. There it is. Just pouring another drink. Oh. Floyd made Maidana wear pillows on his hands. Yeah, he did. He did. He had the pillow gloves. Maidana versus Thurman and Maidana versus Danny Garcia. I would pick Thurman on points, but I think Maidana would hurt him. He'd probably hurt him to the body and would probably lose a close decision. Danny Garcia, I think stylistically, he would probably beat Maidana because he'd probably catch him with a counter left hook and end up winning it on points. It would be similar, I think, to the Matisse fight. I think Maidana. I would pick Matisse over Maidana too. So yeah, I think Danny Garcia would beat Maidana. Yeah, Mayweather's a scumbag, a complete degenerate. I love how the commission just does what Floyd tells them and nobody questions it. Yeah. Look, Floyd basically had the commission on his payroll. That's essentially what he had, you know. So yeah, you were never going to get a real fight involving Floyd. His fights were just sparring sessions. You know, they were rigged gambling scams, just like Canelo's, just like Teofimo's. Fake fights, you know, that's what they were. Yeah, if anyone else is wondering why I keep stopping, I am brewing in a wee glass. Pour it into a wee glass and drink it. It's nice. Man, see, every time I go on camera, I always forget I'm sitting in a dark room. And you put the camera on and you can't see nothing. Like, I'm tempted to go put the light on, but I can't be bothered. Can't be bothered. I don't particularly like being on camera anyway. And who wants to see my face, you know? Do I rate Amir Khan? Well, he had very, very fast hands and he was a great athlete, but technically, in my opinion, he was very poor. And obviously, he had defense issues and chin issues, you know? So, very overrated fighter, in my personal opinion. Don't think he was that good, truth be told. Maidana was a bum who should have got the decision, but Floyd somehow TBE. Yeah, Floyd couldn't even beat a bum. Yeah, he's TBE. Okay. Yeah, of course he is. Mayweather's a materialistic scumbag. Yep, he is. Have you ever watched Floyd Mayweather against The Big Show? I've seen like bits and pieces of it. I've never seen the whole thing. I've seen like the clip of The Big Show dragging Floyd to the ring while he's trying to escape. And it was like the title of the video was "The Big Show drags Floyd to the ring to fight Pacquiao." That was so funny. If you guys ever remember that, that was so funny. Back in the day, that takes me back, you know. That was so funny, it was. Any comments about Crawford ducking Spence at 154? Crawford is a cherry-picking, hype job, manufactured fraud, and I just don't give a shit about Crawford. I think he's an absolute fraud. I really do. And all he does is fight cripples and weight-drained opponents and guys who are brain damaged, guys who are just not fit to fight, you know? They covered up Floyd taking steroids through his IV before the Pacquiao fight. Yep. He got a TUE for it, as he always did, you know? I thought Mayweather versus Cotto was a draw. Didn't see. I thought Cotto won that fight. I thought he won it clearly. I gave Mayweather, I think, the 12th round. Every other fight, he just laid on the ropes and did nothing. I thought Cotto won that fight clearly. The Skype wanker. Yeah. Is that because I went on camera? Would you guys prefer it? Like, see, when I do these live streams, would you guys prefer it if I went on camera? Or would you prefer me to just do it the way I do it? Like, do you guys actually want to sit and watch me? Let me know in the comment section. I'll do it if you want. If enough people want me to go on camera, I'll do it. I don't particularly like going on camera because I'm a little bit camera shy, but I'll do it if you guys want me to do it. I mean, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to do anything sexual, but but I'll go on camera if you guys want. Show my face if need be, you know. Khan versus Hatton at 140. I'd pick Hatton. I think stylistically he's horrible for Khan. I think he would get under Khan's punches. He'd get inside. He'd work him to the body and he'd break him down. And he'd probably knock him out late with a big left hook. So yeah, I think Hatton by stoppage in that fight. What do you think of Roman Gonzalez currently? Great fighter, one of the best fighters pound for pound. But I think he should probably retire because he's quite a bit past his prime now. And I think he'll start losing to guys he would have easily beaten in his prime a few years ago, you know? I would have honestly paid a lot of money to watch Floyd taking a bloody beating in a real fight. It'll never happen, though. It'll never happen because Floyd's fights were all fixed, every single one of them. Mayweather arguably lost to Castillo, De La Hoya, Cotto, Maidana, Pacquiao, and Logan Paul. But he's TBA, yeah. What a clown, man. Mayweather's a complete joke. Mayweather struggled against a past his prime De La Hoya. It doesn't matter. Yeah, I suppose it doesn't, does it? You're not going to do an Amir Khan. Yeah, I'm not. Don't worry. I'm not going to do an Amir Khan. I'm not going to do an Amir Khan on Skype. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to do that while looking at videos of Anthony Joshua. I'm not going to show you guys my search history. Don't worry about it. This is not that kind of channel, you know, and not that kind of stream. Shout out to Johnny Boy. God bless you here, bro. One of the very rare occasions we will disagree on something. Crawford is the man. God bless, brother. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, God bless you, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. I just think Crawford is very, very selective about who he fights. And, you know, he tends to fight guys who are compromised, as far as I'm concerned, you know. Best channels who talk about corruption in boxing. Probably Nordic Warrior. That channel's badass. I'm kidding. Precise does a lot of videos, as does Thunderdome, breaking down, you know, the corruption in boxing. They do a great job, you know. Floyd acts all tough, but is always with security. Yeah, exactly. He can't even go to the shop without having a security guard. Nordic, can you please repeat your Zhang fight tonight? What do you mean? Sorry. Oh! Repeat my prediction. I'm going with Joyce to win by late stoppage. I've actually put money on Joyce. Yeah, I've put a cheeky little bet on Joyce to win, either by late stoppage or points. I think he wins it. I think he will outlast Zhang, break him down and beat him late. But would you rather see Crawford defend his 47 belt against Boots Ennis or go up to 68 and fight Canelo? Well, he doesn't want to defend the belt against anybody who's a threat to him. He just wants big fights and big paydays against weight-drained, brain-damaged, crippled opponents, you know? Because that's what Crawford does. That's his career. Nordic search history will just be full of Sven Oki fights, yeah? Yeah, that's the thing. Like, could you imagine, like, some hacker manages to get a hold of my hard drives and my computers and my search history, wanting to like air out all my dirty secrets. And all they find is like Svenotki results, like Svenotki fights. Like, could you imagine that? Don't criticize my bud. Yeah, a lot of people like that. I think Vosdick would beat Beaver. Do you know, in his prime, I give him a very good chance. I don't think he would now, though. Are you gonna watch Expendables? For you mean Expendables? That's what it's marketed as, isn't it? Like if you look at the title, it's Expendables. You know, kind of like Tech3 or Scroforum. They always do that with movie titles. They put the number in the actual word to replace one of the letters. So yeah, it's Expendables or something. And no, I'm not gonna watch it. I liked the first Expendables. I did. I thought the sequels were absolute garbage. And doesn't the fourth one have like Megan Fox in it or something? Like, yeah, no thanks. Yeah, I'm not watching that. No chance. I saw Sound of Freedom though. I'm planning to review that. That was a great movie. In that last exhibition fight Floyd had, he needed 20 people to jump in the ring to protect him. Yeah, because he's an old man and he can't fight. And he couldn't even fight in his prime, you know? Who do you think who do you think of Pacquiao's 5 best wins? One of his best is, I'd say, Barrera, because he was a legend. I'd say Barrera, De La Hoya, Margarito, because he was just so much bigger. Probably Marquez and Morales. Was that 5? I think that was 5. So yeah, I'd say Barrera, De La Hoya, Margarito, Marquez, and Morales. I'd say that those were his 5 best wins. I'd say. Like Precise said, isn't it funny how Crawford wants Alvarez at 168, but he won't fight Spence at 154? Yeah, because he'll only fight guys where they're drained or when he can make a lot of money, you know, or where he can make the most amount of money. Sven Hockey fights is the dirty secret. Yeah, yeah. You guys would be disappointed if you got a hold of my search history, and it's just full of Sven Hockey fights. Imagine it. My search history is full of Golovkin fights and heavy metal music. Yeah, I'm not really into heavy metal. I mostly listen to video game soundtracks, you know. Floyd had an exhibition in the UK a while ago, and there wasn't even 1,000 people there. Yeah, Floyd isn't that popular in the UK, believe it or not. Not that many people really care about him or want to see him fight. Mostly in America, you know. He has most of his fans, you know. For Crawford to be mentioned at pound for pound, he would have to do the following: beat Thurman, Garcia, Ennis, Spence at 154, and Zhu and Charlo. Then we can have a pound for pound discussion, yeah. Because he's never really fought anybody who had a size advantage or anybody who was in their prime. Literally anybody. He's just fought cripples and brain damaged, weight drained opponents who were compromised, you know? Margarito was a very tough man, and he was massive compared to Pacquiao. Massive. Johnny's search history, it explained Lisa Ann threesome, Great Eastern Euro and Asian fighters boxing highlights, serial killer documentaries, and Italian and 90s rock music. Nothing to hide. Yeah. Yeah, I can totally imagine that's Johnny's search history. Without a doubt. That's your search history, no doubt about it. Make another Oki video. I know you want to. Do you know, I've thought about it. I've thought of making like another Sven Oki documentary or something just to piss people off or just to see how people react to it, you know? I'm not sure what else to say about him really though. He's relevant in the UK when he fights people like Pacquiao, Hatton, McGregor, and Paul. Yeah, but not when he's not fighting anybody else who's famous, you know, or who's well known in the UK. You know, Crawford is like Wilder in the sense that he showboats against overmatched opponents and enjoys humiliating them. Yeah, he's a bully and an absolute coward because he wasn't showboating like that When he fought someone like Kavalauskas, was he? He'll only do that when he's using loaded gloves like he did against Avanesian, or he's fighting a cripple like he did against Spence. Have you watched The Equalizer 3? No, I haven't watched it. I've seen like little bits and pieces of like one of the Equalizer films, but I've never seen like a whole film of them. That's the one with Denzel Washington in it, the Equalizer. I'd watch another Otke video. Yeah, yeah. Sure, a lot of people would. I just don't know what else to say about him. I actually thought about, just for shits and giggles, I thought about doing like a Sven Otke versus Roy Jones, who would win video, and just seeing how people react to it. And then just pointing out the fact that Roy Jones got beaten up and dominated by guys that weren't even on Otke's level. Guys like Tarver and Johnson. But yeah, I've thought about it. I have. Need to stretch my legs a second. Man, sitting in the same place makes me get all stiff. Crawford is a slick American black fighter, like Stephen Fulton, yeah. Yeah, they don't like to fight them slick black fighters because them got more skill and more athleticism. Why does nobody talk about the Avanesian gloves anymore? That was so obvious that something dodgy was going on. But I guess it doesn't matter because Avanesian isn't a big name. Well, yeah, we know for a fact Crawford used loaded gloves against Avanesian. We know that. But the boxing media is covering it up. Nobody in the boxing media said a word about it or brought it up, just like they did with Carl Froch. They never mentioned it. They covered it up because obviously certain guys like Carl Froch, like Terence Crawford, are protected by the boxing media. They don't want people talking about their loaded gloves. Again, both of his gloves were defective, and he was still allowed to knock a man out. So where's the fighter safety crowd at? Where's the here cheat and ass beach? The people who talked about Inoue having stacked wraps. Where are those guys at in regards to Terence Crawford using obviously loaded gloves? Nobody's talking about it, are they? Is what it is. Avanesian actually did better than Spence did. Yeah, he did. He actually landed shots because he wasn't weight drained and crippled. It's just that he had to fight a guy with loaded gloves. Besides Foreman and Fraser, what would you consider to be Ali's best wins? I'd say his win over Ernie Shavers was pretty good, and his win over, even though I think these fights were fixed, his win over Sonny Liston on paper was very good because he was the man in the division. But Sonny Liston, obviously, in my opinion, took a dive. But on paper, I'd say those are his better wins, aside from Foreman and Fraser. Guys like Ernie Shavers, who was like a massive puncher. And obviously, he got official wins over Ken Norton as well, even though people thought he lost. So, yeah, he had some good wins on his resume, for sure. I'm black, and I don't even like Crawford or Tank. Yeah, a lot of blacks don't actually like Crawford. I've noticed that. I've noticed that Crawford isn't as popular in America, among like the black American crowd as a lot of the PBC guys are. Like, for example, the Charlos and guys like that seem to be a lot more well liked, as well as Wilder, than Crawford does. I think it's just Crawford's personality. He's just not a very likable guy. A lot of people don't like him. Froch deletes my comments about loaded gloves that I leave on his channel. Do you know, I heard that people were saying my gloves are heavy on his channel, and he was like blocking them or deleting the comments. That's pretty funny, that. Because again, what's he got to hide? And that lets you know he saw the video and he knows about the accusations, and he's keeping uncharacteristically quiet about it, isn't he? Yeah, screw Carl Froch, man. He's a scumbag. Do you think Foreman would beat Ali in a rematch? Yes, I do. I think he knocks him out. I think in the first fight, Foreman fought like an absolute idiot. He got very, very angry and very wound up, and he got the tactics wrong. And he allowed Ali to get inside his head, and he allowed him to tire him out by covering up on the ropes and taking punches on the gloves and the arms. But I think in a rematch, Foreman had a great jab when he used it, and he was great at setting up his punches with feints. And I think in a rematch, he would use his jab. He would break Ali down slowly and consistently, and I think he would stop him late. And that's why Ali ducked the rematch. I think Foreman would have stopped him in the rematch. So yeah, Ali would have gotten stopped in the later rounds. I think Foreman would have won. Shavers sped up Ali's Parkinson's. He took a beat. Yeah, he took some big shots. Got the win, but took some big shots. So, yeah, some people riding Crawford balls hard wonder why. Yeah, Crawford's a joke, I think. Liston and Shavers were tomatoes, though. I don't know. I think Liston was pretty good, actually, but I think he took a dive, It's Crawford from Nebraska. Like 5,000 people live there. Yeah, he's not got that big a fan base, has he? If he had nothing to hide, he would explain himself. Of course he would. Froch would address the allegations, but he won't because he doesn't want people talking about it because he knows he has something to hide. Or does he? He most likely has something to hide, I think, based on what I've seen. Foreman destroys Leon Spinks and Trevor Berbick as well. Yeah. Yeah, he's a better fighter than those guys, Foreman took a dive. He was much better than the hype job Ali. Do you know that wouldn't surprise me at all? The politics definitely favoured Ali, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and say he just tired himself out. But it wouldn't surprise me if he took a dive. But I definitely think he was better than Ali. Like I think Foreman. Like I'm 100% convinced. I definitely think Foreman wins the rematch. I really do. Like if they had the rematch immediately, I think Foreman would have won it. Liston was a great fighter, but he was in debt to the mob. Yeah, and I think that's why he took a dive. He took. I'm 100% convinced that Liston took a dive against Ali. Probably in both fights, Foreman could beat Ali. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, same here. Liston wasn't great. His record was made of guys much smaller that were already knocked out before him. Yeah, but he had a great jab and he was a big puncher, and he was the number one heavyweight at the time. Regardless of how good the scene was at the time, he was the number one heavyweight at the time. So it's a good win on paper. I always wondered why most boxing fans are convinced that Froch would have destroyed Otke when it's so obvious that Otke would be much too fast. Otke would win every single round and he would school Froch and win on points easily. That fight's not even competitive. It's not even close. Like prime for prime, Otke wins on points easily. Where did Froch's punching power come from? He didn't drop anybody in the Super 6, and he only stopped a shot Jermaine Taylor in the last 10 seconds after getting dropped and schooled. Exactly. His power came out of nowhere. It came from all natural supplements and, just perfectly legal padded gloves, Froch was so bad that Ward didn't even need to cheat against him. Yeah, that's how crap Carl Froch was. That Andre Ward was able to actually box within the rules for the most part and was still able to win. Yeah, Froch is probably Ward's best win because he actually won it without cheating as much. Yes, but like you said, the heavyweight division was garbage, and Liston took a dive twice. Yeah, but I'm talking about what's on paper. You have to take it into consideration, the error and the time that these guys fought. And at the time, that was a huge win. At the time, that was a huge win on Ali's resume, But yeah, I agree. Ali was overrated. Like his error was overrated, Isn't it funny how quite a few people believe Liston Ali was fixed, yet they are convinced that fixed fights for some reason don't happen anymore? As if suddenly corruption ended in the 60s. Yeah, there's all these fights like Jake LaMotta versus Billy Fox and all these other fights where we know guys have admitted to taking dives. But nowadays that just doesn't happen, does it? Guys never take dives. Every fight's real, even if it looks like it's not. People are so biased and naive, man. It's ridiculous. Otke schools RJJ and Froch. Yeah, he could. The Roy fight would be a difficult one, but he would definitely beat Froch, as far as I'm concerned. Do you think if Arthur Abraham paced himself better, he would have beat Ward? If the fight was on neutral territory, yes, Abraham would beat Ward, but When they fought, it was in America. Ward was allowed to do what he wants. He was allowed to low blow and headbutt consistently. And I just don't think Abraham would have gotten the decision no matter what. If that fight were in Germany, I would take Abraham because Ward wouldn't be able to foul. He'd have to fight fairly. And, Abraham would probably put the pressure on him and beat him on points. So, yeah, I think with a fair referee and fair judges, I think Arthur Abraham would win. And if he paced himself, yeah, he could win. Kessler was shot in the Frotz rematch, and that fight was still much closer than people think. Yeah, could have gone either way. I mean, Kessler hurt Frotz badly on numerous occasions in that fight and came close to stopping him. Frotz barely got through that fight, and it was very, very close. And the first fight wasn't even close. It wasn't even competitive. Kessler won the first fight very, very clearly. The most obvious dive I've seen was Dorian Dortch falling over against Dave Allen. Yeah, that was a clear dive. And there was apparently betting irregularities involving that fight too, which makes it even more suspicious, Just look at Danny Green against Paul Briggs. Yeah, another one, obvious dive. And Paul Briggs apparently had brain damage or something going into that fight, from what I hear. True and Andre Ward never fought on neutral ground. Yeah, of course. He only fought in America because he was allowed to cheat in America, And that was why he fought there, because he would have had to fight within the rules if he fought overseas, You mean the fight was in Germany? Yeah. If the fight was in Germany. Tyron Zoig fighting tonight. Is it in Germany? Yeah, I wonder if he's fighting in Germany. You reckon he can do anything in the 168-pound division now? No. Tyron's always been too inactive, and he's just completely thrown his career away. I don't think he's going to do anything. Maybe he can be European champion. That's about as far as I think he'll go. I'll be surprised if he wins another world title. Hopefully he does, but I'd be surprised if it happened. He had talent, but he's not going that much further, I don't think. How do you think a Ward versus Kelly Pavlik fight would have been like? Well, that fight was set. If you remember rightly, they were set to fight, but then Ward pulled out with an injury and Pavlik retired because the fight fell through. At that stage of the careers, I think Ward would have beaten him on points. He would have just outboxed him. A prime Kelly Pavlik, however, a few years earlier, could have probably knocked Ward out. I genuinely think he could have. He had the physical ability and the power to do it. An underrated skill. So, yeah, I would favour Pavlik prime for prime to win that fight. Triple G versus Canelo 3, another obvious huge dive. Yeah, absolutely it was. Absolutely. I enjoy watching that guy with the muscle implants because the dives are so terrible. It's obvious. Yeah, Jorge Kawagi. He's the original Canelo. Yeah. Yeah, the businessman who just paid his opponent off, Germany. But we are in Germany. You can't get a decision in Germany. You have to knock them out to get a draw in Germany. Thoughts on Benavidez against Andrade? I think Benavidez beats him. Andrade will probably run all night, and Benavidez will probably outwork him and win on points, I think. The GOAT himself, the best German heavyweight, Tom Schwartz, is the main event. Yeah. Looking forward to that. Yeah. So I guess Tyron's always fighting on Tom Schwartz's undercard, I see. Yeah, German boxing is finished, man. It really is. There's just no quality. They're all a bunch of cooks, Yeah, I thought Zoe took a dive against Fielding. I said that at the time. I said that in my post-fight review. I thought Zoe took a dive against Fielding. Just like I think Jürgen Bremer, his trainer, took a dive against Nathan Cleverly shortly before it, What about Abraham versus Pavlik? That fight was in talks for a while. I think Pavlik would have outboxed Abraham from long range, but I think Abraham would have had better stamina down the stretch, and I think he would have put it on him late. I'd go with Pavlik by a close decision. I don't think he stops Abraham. I think he wins by a close decision, but I think the later rounds, Abraham would put a beating on him, and maybe he would have a chance at a late stoppage, but Be a close fight and a competitive one. I favour Pavlik, but I give Abraham a puncher's chance in the later rounds. Thought Abraham performance versus Froch was suspicious. Yeah, because he did nothing. I mean, he practically did nothing that entire fight. Then in the final seconds of the fight, he hurt Froch badly with a right hand, nearly dropped him. And I remember thinking to myself, where was that 10 rounds ago? Where was that all them rounds ago? All he had to do was throw it. Froch has a low lead hand, no guard. All you have to do is throw the overhand right. Abraham just wasn't throwing it. I don't know what he was playing at in that fight. Terrible performance. I wanted to see a rematch for years, but it never happened. You know, I also wanted to see someone like Stieglitz get a shot at Froch. I think he could have beaten him. Benavidez batters him. Morel versus Benavidez will be a good fight, 50-50. Yeah, that would be interesting at this stage, you know. Cleverly versus Fanfara is one of my favourite fights to rewatch. That was a great fight. Absolute war. Absolute war. If you guys have never seen that, Cleverly versus Andres Fanfara. Fanfara won it, but it was a very close fight. And it was a great fight too. One of the best fights in recent years, I think. Golovkin versus Pavlik. I go with Golovkin late stoppage. I think he's a bad style matchup for Pavlik. I think he would get into the body, break him down, and stop him late. I think he was so much more athletic and so much more skilled, and he would win it, I think. Pavlik had power, but Golovkin had even more power and better skills, you know? And he would have broken him down and stopped him, I think. Only fighter I'm impressed with from Germany now is Michael Eifert, who schooled Jean Pascal recently. I don't know who that is. I really don't. Remember Danny Green headbutting Marcus Bayer and getting disqualified? And the press complained that Green got screwed because the fight took place in Germany. Yeah. Then he got battered in the rematch. He got schooled. Like, they had a rematch. I think it was like the following year or something. And Marcus Bayer completely schooled him, dominated the rematch. But what's weird is the rematch was a majority decision, even though Marcus Bayer clearly won. Like, clearly won the rematch. Abraham versus Sturm. I think Sturm on points. But again, I give Abraham a puncher's chance. Like, he could catch him in the later rounds because he was so much stronger and so much more powerful at middleweight, you know? So yeah, Sturm outboxes him. But I could see a late stoppage for Abraham, potentially. Froch versus Smigger. Well, that's a 50-50 fight because Smigger is the hardest man in Liverpool, the real gone kid, and you know, the greatest fighter of all time. But Froch has such a great chin, so I don't know, man. Nah, I'm just kidding. Nah, Froch beats Smigger on points. He just schools him and outboxes him easily on points. Yeah, wins easily. Prime Sakio Bika versus Froch. I go with Sakio Bika because he would be too strong on the inside and he would beat him up inside and win on points, I think. Froch school, that's why Froch ducked Sakio Bika too. Froch schooling Abraham and Ward versus Bika on the same night. What a terrible night for boxing, mate. That pissed me off so much. I watched them both live as well. And I remember sitting with a bunch of mates of mine, you know, guys from Nottingham, you know, Froch fans. And I'm telling them Abraham's going to bash this guy up. He's going to knock him out. He's going to expose him. And yeah, you can just imagine how I felt at the time, you know. Like, Abraham's going to knock him out. Yeah, and then that happened. Then Ward versus Bika, you know, which was just Ward fouling and Bika getting screwed over by the referee, you know. Do you think Badu Jack can compete with the other champions at cruiserweight? No. I mean, he'll compete, yeah, but no, he won't beat them. I don't think. I don't think he'll do that much. I think he got Makabu at the right time. I think he'd probably get stopped against any of the other cruiserweight champions. Probably Billum Smith even beats him at this stage. I think so anyway, you know. But it is what it is. He got a good win. Stern versus Otke by a wide decision. I think he was just too athletic. Like, Sturm had a great guard and like good boxing fundamentals, but Otke was so much faster and so much more intelligent. He had so much more of a ring IQ. I think he would win by a wide decision. Maybe you can make a video about Marcus Bayer, underrated fighter. God bless his soul. Yeah, yeah, God bless him. RIP to him. God bless him. But yeah, I wouldn't mind making that video. I actually did think about doing a retrospective career review for him. I think I will do it at some point. No doubt about it. I will do it at some point. Fights involving Smiga are pointless. He was too good. The only man who had Triple G and Kovalev terrified of the 168-pound division. Yeah. Yeah, they weren't moving to super middleweight while Smiga was there, you know? I remember watching Smiga versus Abraham 1 live, and I got influenced by the commentary and thought it was close. But rewatching it, it was Abraham 9-3. Yeah. I think I had it 10-2 Abraham. Even when I first watched it, like, that fight wasn't even competitive, wasn't even close. Sky Sports should be absolutely ashamed of themselves for the way they covered that fight. And Smiga did not deserve the rematch. He got the rematch, got a beating, and he didn't deserve the rematch, you know? It was an absolute one-sided schooling. Kind of reminds me of the time I watched Povetkin versus Joshua with AJ fans after telling them Povetkin's going to KO him. Yeah. Oh, it's annoying, man. I hate it when you get like shown up in front of casuals. It makes you feel like a right dumbass. It does. I mean, I'm literally sitting there screaming at the TV. I'm like, what are you doing, Arthur? What are you doing? Like, he was like Joshua Clotty in there, just covering up, doing nothing. Froch was right in front of him with his hands down, that big nose like hanging over his front foot. Abraham was landing the jab. And I'm like, all you have to do is throw the right hand after you land the jab. Throw the right hand. Then, like 10 seconds or something before the end of the fight, like go and watch the last round of the fight. Abraham lands a right hand on Froch's chin, and Froch's knees buckle, and he's badly hurt. Like, badly hurt. He's about to go down. And I'm literally like, where was this earlier in the fight? If he'd have thrown that in the first round, and if he'd have thrown it somewhat consistently, he'd have got him out of there. He would literally have got him out of there. He would have. But he fought like an idiot. I don't know what he was playing at. And Froch after the fight had a big black eye from that right hand. And I'm like, just imagine how he would have looked if Abraham was throwing right hands like that the whole fight. Just a ridiculous fight. It really was, man. Still annoys me, you know, when I think about it. Fixed fights, man. Ortke versus Triple G. Do you know? I think I know exactly how that fight would go. I think Ortke would be ahead after a few rounds. I think he'd be moving around and just picking and pecking and jabbing and scoring points. But I think what would happen in that fight is I think Ortke would realize that he couldn't back Triple G up because Triple G, in addition to having a great chin, he also had great timing and he liked having his opponents backing up. So I think it would stylistically suit him. And I think eventually his strength on the inside, his power, his persistence would get the better of Ortke. And I think Triple G would beat him on points. I don't think he would stop Ortke, but I think he would hit him to the body, back him up, get him on the run, get him in survival mode, get him thinking purely defense, and he would win the fight on points. It would be close, but I think Triple G would win on points. Ortke would have his moments though, I think, but Triple G would win on points, I think. Ortke would have to really, really be defensive, and he would only win a few rounds, I think. Calzaghe versus Bivol. Calzaghe just outworks Bivol. I think Bivol could win some rounds. He could catch Calzaghe, but I think the work rate as well as the versatility of Calzaghe would be too much for him. It would be kind of similar to the Kessler fight. I think close fight, but with Calzaghe winning on points, you know. Zach Parker won his comeback fight. Oh, is he on the undercard? The Joyce undercard? I didn't realize he was fighting. Yeah, disappointing that he quit against Ryder because I think he could have won that fight. I genuinely think he could have won it even with the injury, you know. Do you think Otke got a gift versus Lawson? Personally, no. I know a lot of people do. I thought it could have gone either way. I thought he just did enough to win it. Just did enough to win it.
Froch knows a lot about boxing. I seen a comment that made me piss myself. It was like, I heard that after his nose surgery, Froch is thinking of coming back as a lightweight. I pissed myself when I heard it. May God bless you all. I'm late in, gonna watch this one back. Yeah, shout out to you, man. God bless you, man. Arnold, God bless you. Froch tries to act like he's based, but he's the opposite. Yeah, of course he's not based. Nothing based about him. You know? If Calzaghe didn't retire after Roy Jones Jr. and fought Dawson, Tarver, Glenn Johnson, and Zolta Rady, would he have gone 50-0 in your opinion? Who do you think would have been the toughest out of the four? Well, I definitely think Calzaghe beats all those guys. I definitely think he beats them. But the question is, at that stage of Calzaghe's career, he was starting to falter a bit. I think he was past his prime. And, you know, he had some injuries and also he admitted he was starting to cut corners a bit in training, you know. So I think if he'd have fought all those guys back to back, there's a very good chance one of them would have beaten him. Very good chance. Dawson wasn't that good, but he was in his prime then. He was a rising star. Tarver was a bit tricky. You know, he was a counterpuncher, had a lot of power. Glenn Johnson was very, very tough. You know, a bit of a late bloomer, a good stamina. And Zolta Rady was very good technically. You know, a good skilled boxer. But I think Calzaghe's better than all those guys, and I think he beats them. But I think if at that stage of his career, like in 2008 onwards, if he'd have just fought all four of them back to back, I could see one of them beating him. I think that the most dangerous stylistically out of those guys would have been Tarver. I think the reason I say that is because Tarver had size, you know, height and reach, power. You know, he's like 6'3". He had a lot of power. He was a southpaw. And I think he would have been the most difficult guy stylistically out of all those guys, even though I think Calzaghe could beat them all. But yeah, like I said, at that stage of his career, it would have been hard to imagine him beating all four of those guys in a row. So I think he would have lost to at least one of them. But prime for prime, he beats either of them, I think, you know. Why was that fight in Finland? What fight was in? Oh, you're on about Froch Abraham. I'll tell you why that fight was in Finland. At first, it was meant to be in Germany, right? Because that was where the money was. But Froch bitched and moaned about it for weeks and said, I don't want to fight in Germany. Because, you know, Froch is a road warrior who will fight anybody, anywhere. No questions asked. But he didn't want to fight in Germany because he wanted the fight in England. But then basically what happened is they had to come to a compromise and they agreed to fight in Monaco. Then what happened is Abraham began his training camp and then Froch pulled out like a week or a couple weeks or so before the fight with a fake back injury because he wanted to mess up Abraham's training camp. And then they insisted that they move the fight to Finland in the middle of December. So in the middle of winter or whenever the fight was, like November, December. So yeah, so that flipping it would just completely mess up Abraham's training camp. And he had to move from, where he was to Finland. And yeah, it was a tactical move on Froch's part. And it's funny because most of the crowd who were at that fight weren't even there to see Froch and Abraham. Most of the crowd were there to see Robert Helenius, who was the co-main event. Like he was the guy who I think sold most tickets to that event, you know? Like most of the crowd were there to see him. Paulie Malignaggi did a video saying Calzaghe is overrated and that he ducked for it. Mate, who gives a shit what that big-nosed twat thinks? What that pillow-fisted, retarded bum thinks? Who cares? Paulie Malignaggi's an idiot. He talks a lot of rubbish. Complete idiot he is. No one cares what he thinks, you know? Kurt Sidzi versus Sturm. Sturm on points. I think he schools him. I don't even think that's competitive. Kurt Sidzi's a tough guy and a big puncher, but the difference in boxing skill between him and Sturm was too wide. Sturm wins on points easily, I think. Yeah, I could see it happening. I would pick Beterbiev over Calzaghe. Stylistically, I think that's a bad fight. I think Calzaghe would try and box him, and Beterbiev would drag him into a brawl and a fight. I think his strength and his size and his power would be too much. I think Beterbiev stops him. I honestly do. And I would take Prime Kovalev over Bivol. I'd also take Prime Kovalev over Calzaghe stylistically. I think he would win it. Kovalev, I think. I still think Porker would have beaten Andrade. Yeah, yeah, he could at Parker. Yeah, yeah, I was picking Parker to win. And again, I still think he would have because I think he would have had Andrade running around the ring, and the fight was in the UK, and I think he would have just outworked him and outfought him and won on points. Yeah, how's it going, man? God bless you. But I've still not watched that fight, the Kenshiro Heki Budler fight. I kept meaning to watch it. I got caught up with stuff, but I keep meaning to watch it because the fight went how I expected it to go, based on the result. But I'd like to see it. Calzaghe's punching power was much less late in his career because of his brittle hands. Yeah, yeah, his hand injuries damaged his power big time. Do you think Tarver was drugged versus Hopkins like he claims? It's definitely possible. Like that does happen in boxing, but I don't know if it happened in that situation. I think part of it was that Tarver had to lose a lot of Tarver. What was I saying? He had to lose a lot of weight after the Rocky movie that he was in. I think that could have drained him for the fight. But you never know. He could have been drugged. I don't know. Can't get a fair scorecard in Germany. Got to knock him out to get a draw in Germany. The US and the UK are far worse for gift decisions than Germany. Yeah, of course they are. The US and the UK, I've seen worse decisions than anywhere else in the world for boxing by far. Paulie is still seething about Manny till this day. Total loser. Paulie Malignaggi is a piece of shit. Screw him. I don't know why anybody takes that guy seriously. Don't brag about taking my side piece. Don't brag about taking my side piece. I thought I was outboxing him in the last 4 rounds. He's Al Heyman's judge. He took it off me. I can't get a decision. There's a whole fighter fighting at home. What a clown. Like, Paulie, someone needs to just bitch slap that idiot. Paulie Malignaggi. He's an absolute clown. I'm glad Kurt Sidzy's coming back. His fights against Douglas and Langford were good, yeah. He'll probably be shot, but he'll still be in some great fights. I think they'll be very entertaining. They were good fights. They were. I think they will be entertaining. He's a good fighter. Froch versus Benavidez. I could see Froch winning on points based on like work rate and stamina, but I could also see Benavidez outboxing him because I don't know, man. That's a 50-50 fight. It's a tough one to call, really. And I'll say Benavidez on points in a very close fight. Only Harry Greb could outbox Hockey. Yeah, the pound for pound greatest fighter of all time, of course, who there's no footage on, and who looks like he can't even throw a punch. That guy. Warrington versus Wood prediction. Harry Greb beats both. I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. No. I would have picked Warrington a year ago because I do think he's the better fighter of the two, but I think he's past his prime now. I think he's a bit shop worn, and I think Lee Wood's gonna get the better of him and win on points. Potentially late stoppage, but I think most likely Lee Wood on points. I'm going to the fight. I'm looking forward to it. Booked my tickets on the coach today. I'm gonna go to Nottingham first, then we're driving to Sheffield to see the fight. Me and my friend from school. He knows Lee Wood. They're friends. So I'll be with a bunch of Nottingham lads at the fight. It'll be interesting. I tried to watch the interview where Paulie, Cotto, and Judo all together, but I couldn't watch it because it was 95% Paulie talking over people. Why is Paulie even there? Like why is Paulie in any like boxing discussion with like world class fighters? He was a complete and utter clown and an overrated hype job. Like who cares? Like why is Paulie even in the conversation? He shouldn't even be taken seriously at all. I don't rate him one bit. I really don't. Remember how Paulie knocked down Love Morendu? How did that happen? I don't know. It's probably a slip or something. I don't know. Sometimes lightning strikes, doesn't it? I can't see Wood being able to win 7 rounds in a boxing match. Warrington's volume will be too high. I think he's more skilled too. Yeah, I definitely think Warrington is the better fighter, but like I say, I just think that he's past his prime now. And I've been so disappointed by Warrington in the last like 3 or 4 years. He hasn't performed, in my opinion, to the best of his ability ever since he fought Kid Galahad. I think he's looked poor since. So, at least by the standard of what he used to look like when he fought the likes of like Lee Selby and Carl Frampton and guys like that. So, yeah, I think Warrington is past his prime, and I think Lee Wood's going to beat him. I think he's going to win it, But we'll see. I'm kind of got a bit of a soft spot for Warrington. I kind of hope he pulls it off, even though at the same time I'm rooting for Lee Wood because just affiliated. Here's what it is. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be some atmosphere. See the Nottingham Forest fans and the Leeds United fans and whoever's in Sheffield. That's going to be interesting. It really is. Remember when Eggington just stood there with his hands down and let Paulie punch him 10 times and nothing happened? I remember that. He laughed in his face. Like Sam Eggington literally stood there, just allowed Paulie to tee off on him and just went and knocked him out afterwards. It was funny, man. Like Eggington he knocked him out easily, It's weird that apparently the judges had Paulie winning that fight, but I actually had Eggington ahead. Like I actually had Eggington winning it. I had him ahead. I had him winning it. I thought he was winning clearly. Hatton versus Taylor. Taylor by stoppage. It would be like the Eamon McGee fight, except Taylor's way better than Eamon McGee, and he would stop Hatton late, I think. Much better fighter, Marquez versus Morales. I would actually go with Marquez, but I think Morales could outbox him for a while, but I think Marquez's power and just his persistence and his speed and his physical strength might be the difference. So I go with Marquez by a close decision, but Morales would outbox him in times and have his moments, I think. Would you rather have Pacquiao's speed or Margarito's chin? I'd say Pacquiao's speed because I don't really want to get hit much. So if I was as fast as Pacquiao, I could avoid getting hit, Warrington might be past it, but Wood is 35, just been heavily KO'd, and has stated the weight is a struggle. Do you know what? That makes it interesting. That might make me reconsider it, but I don't know, man. Sometimes with these fights, I go off gut feeling, and my gut feeling right now tells me that Wood will probably win it, Paulie is the only American to win a version of a European title. Yeah, that's because he's like his ancestry is Italian, so technically he's Italian ethnically. So he's ethnically European. Here's what it is. Marquez turned into the Hulk for the fourth Pacquiao fight. Yeah. And in the fourth Pacquiao fight, it's like he must have gotten some whey protein and all natural supplements. Yeah, I think we know what happened there. Taylor versus Pacquiao. Pacquiao, either by a late stoppage or on points. He's just way too fast, way too skilled. Way too fast, way too skilled. Manny Pacquiao wins. Either late stoppage or on points. It takes way too long for the main event to come on in these fights. We have to sit through hours of boring fights. By the time the main event comes on, I'm jaded and don't care anymore. Every fight card I've watched has been like that a lot of the time. When the main event comes, I just want to go to bed. I can't be bothered with it. Or I want to do something else, like play a video game or anything else, Go and read something and relax. I just can't be bothered with it anymore, Can't be bothered with the fights anymore at that time. The fourth fight was the first time Marquez ate chicken, broccoli, and rice. I love it when these celebrities, like these roided up, like obvious juice freaks, and like, what do you eat? And like, oh, it's a chicken, broccoli, rice, yeah, and lots of protein shakes. And they might as well just like twirl their mustache and wink at the camera, Oh man, it is what it is. Edwards versus Bam, Sonny UD. No, I think Bam wins. I'm going with Bam UD. I think he walks Edwards down and wins on points. I think Bam wins it. So yeah, I'm going with him, Rodriguez, to win it. I think he's got too much. How highly do you rate Tim Bradley? I think he had a good career, only lost to Pacquiao. Yeah, he had a great career. Had some very good wins. I mean, he beat Marquez, he beat Provodnikov in great fights. You know, yeah, he beat Kendall Holt, he beat Lamont Peterson. He beat Joel Casimiro. These are all great wins. It's just that Pacquiao had his number. Pacquiao was far too good for him. Watching a Frank Warren undercard is like pouring orange juice onto a gaping gash. That's the best, the best description I've ever heard for a Frank Warren undercard. It certainly is. Marquez stopped drinking his own piss. Yeah, that's why he won. He ate plenty of whey protein and stopped drinking his own piss. Maybe he started eating his own shit. Who knows? Yeah, those all natural supplements and whey protein. Marquez got a load of eggs from Conor Ben's Eggman. Yeah, he also got plenty of tacos from the taco stand that Canelo goes to. Plenty of Mexican beef, as well as that herbal tea that, what's his name, that Valdez was drinking. He got some of that too. Lots of Mexican meat. Marquez drank his own urine. Unfortunately, it was his B sample. Yeah, Marquez drank his B sample. That's why we never see it. War Edwards, I actually think he's underrated. I disagree. I think he's shit. I don't rate Sonny Edwards one bit. I really don't. I honestly think he's one of the weakest world champions in boxing. Yeah, Bradley versus Provodnikov was one of the best fights I've ever seen. It was an amazing fight. Leader Zone and Sky undercards aren't much better. Yeah, they're not. They're absolute crap. Most of the undercards are just so boring nowadays, especially when they've got like crappy woman fights on and people like Campbell Hatton, people like Conor Ben, like Campbell Hatton fights are so boring and they're usually just complete like boring sparring sessions with neither guy throwing real punches. Remember, Kendall Holt was on the Fight Night game. Loads of bum Americans, but barely any world-class fighters. Yeah, Fight Nights had like so many weird, like obscure fighters. Like, I remember, what was it, Fight Night round 4, and they had Amin Asakainen. Like, do you remember that European? It was like that Finnish fighter who got stopped in the first round by Matthew Macklin. He was on Fight Night round 4. Paulie Malignaggi was on it. Flipping Kendall Holt was on Champion. Like they had guys like Jorge Arce in Fight Night round 4. Yeah, it's like bum American fighters, like just guys that no one gives a shit about. Like, it's just so weird. I remember that. You could tell Marquez was shocked at how much harder, or Pacquiao was shocked at how much harder Marquez was hitting. Yeah, clearly Marquez was juicing. He clearly was hitting way harder than he had years earlier. Yeah, he was. Chris Arreola was on Fight Night Champion. He was. So was Butterbean. Campbell Hatton versus Lomachenko. Lomachenko in 3 rounds by stoppage, easily. Yeah, that's true. Asakainen did beat Sebastian Sylvester, which is a good win. Probably his career best win, to be fair. For some reason, Victor Ortiz was the GOAT on Fight Night Champion. Hardest style to fight. Do you know who I used to use? See, when I played Fight Night Round 4, I used to always use Malignaggi a lot online because Malignaggi, you could exploit with him. Basically jab to the body and move away, and you could outbox like anybody with Malignaggi. It was crazy. And then like spin around and counter with a right uppercut to the body. And he was very difficult to beat. On Fight Night Champion, I used to use Vitaly Klitschko quite a lot. I was rubbish at that game, though, and there was too many hackers. I was a lot better at Fight Night Round 4, actually. I was. is Natasha Jonas, the Cilla Black of boxing commentary. She's terrible. Terrible commentator. But what do you expect? She's a woman. She should be in the kitchen, not commentating on a fight. She should be making a sandwich and looking after children, you know. Prime Kelbrook versus Prime Pacquiao. Pacquiao by late stoppage. I think he lands too many punches and stops him, or wins on points. Prime Brook versus Taylor. That's a good fight. I would probably pick Brook. I think in a close and competitive fight, I think Brook would either stop Taylor late or win by a close decision. But I do give Taylor a chance of winning that fight. It's a very close and competitive fight. Joyce and JFK, both no head movement when in danger. Inoue versus Warrington. If they fought now, Inoue knocks him out. Warrington at his prime, I go with Inoue by a close decision. That's how I see that one. Brook would have beaten Spence if he hadn't taken the Golovkin fight. Yeah, because he was damaged in the Golovkin fight. And when he moved down in weight, he was drained, you know. But on that note, I'm getting very, very tired. And yeah, it's been fun. It's been 2 hours and 40 minutes. I'm going to call this one. I'm going to wrap this one up, guys. So yeah, thanks for stopping by, everybody. Had fun. Hope you guys enjoy the fight. Hope you guys enjoy your weekends. And yeah, God bless each and every one of you. Thanks for stopping by, and stay vigilant.